for South Africa and other countries. For the time being, South African assets have performed relatively well. The rand has strengthened during the year more than most peer currencies, while long-term yields have moderated and spreads over US rates have narrowed. These moves have reversed some of the deterioration experienced since 2020. Given a potentially adverse external environment, however, it is crucial to sustain domestic reform momentum. This entails both structural reforms to support growth capacity and macroeconomic efforts to rebuild fiscal and monetary policy buffers. The MPC's main contribution is to deliver low and stable inflation with well-anchored inflation expectations. We also recommend additional measures that would improve economic conditions. These include reaching a prudent public debt level, further and strengthening network industries, lowering administered price inflation, and keeping real wage growth in line with productivity gains. This concludes our statement, and at this stage we would like to invite members of the media to...
All right, so that's the Reserve Bank governor explaining that they're going to be lowering the interest rate by 25 basis points to 8%, with an outlook of around 7% next year. We're going to go back to that in a moment to get an update and listen to some of the questions that journalists will be asking him.
This September, S3 brings you thought-provoking nature dockies that will change the way in which you view the world. Search for the Last Unicorn tells the story of the search for the northern white rhino, an animal that was officially declared extinct in 2018. Follow Saving the Survivors as they travel to South Sudan in the hope of giving us a second chance to save the northern white rhino. Airs Sunday the 22nd of September. Channel your inner activist with our selection of premium dockies Sundays at 5 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3.
Makoti Down Products is a proudly South African family business, started more than 30 years ago with 12 geese and a piece of material. Makoti manufactures duvets, pillows, sleeping bags, and high-quality Egyptian cotton linen. Our down products are suitable for people with dust mite allergies and come with a lifelong guarantee. And we offer a nationwide cleaning service for all your feather and down products. Visit us at makoti.co.za or call us on 041 9922395. For quality down, Makoti Down.
Masandawana want to secure a crucial victory for the Yellow Nation during their second leg clash against Umkoto Gashaga. Meanwhile, the Mbabane Bay side trust their strategy to shock the Brazilians. This is the second preliminary round of the Total Energies CAF Champions League. Experience the great vibes of African football. Mamelodi Sundowns FC battles it out with Mbabane Swallows FC on Saturday, 21 September at 6 p.m. Live on SABC3 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM.
14 minutes past 3. Let's go live to the Reserve Bank again. The Reserve Bank Governor, Letsetsa Kganyago, is answering questions from the journalists after it was announced that the interest rate is down 25 basis points. Let's go back live to the Reserve Bank.
Everything was on the table. There were views that said that hold. There were views that said we could move 25 basis points. And there were views that said that we could move 50 basis points. Our approach is risk-based. We assess the balance of risks to both inflation and to the growth outlook, and we exercise judgment. And in the analysis, we found 25 basis points to be a prudent stance to take. Central banks are very cautious across the world at the moment. And it has to do with the fact that there is so much uncertainty. There are so many moving variables. And as you would see in our forecast, we have revised our inflation forecast for the period. And whereas previously we thought that inflation would average 4.9% this year, we now think it would average 4.6%. But we are most of the time so focused on the most recent print. And I just want to re-emphasize, yesterday's inflation does not mean much for the policy outlook. What matters is what inflation would be in the future. But shall we look at trend? Over the past 5 years, you say on an annual average, the highest annual average was 2022, and it was 6.9. And it was consistent with inflation rising all over the world in 2022. But for South Africa, fortunately, we had started tightening policy in 2021. And so getting into 2022, we were able to peak earlier. Whilst we peaked earlier than the advanced economies and many other emerging market economies, the move downwards for South Africa was very sticky and was not a smooth one. There was a lot of excitement last year when we reached a rate of 4.7 that inflation is dead, only for it to rear its ugly head, and inflation started creeping up. And so 2022 peak 6.9, the peak last year again lower, and this year we are saying that we are going to average 4.6. So the trajectory can be seen. And so whereas there are a lot of moving parts, what cannot be taken away is that the policy stance we have taken had been the correct one. Forthcoming rate cuts, you are invited to the next MPC meeting. You will know what happens at that meeting. Was scope for a bigger cut? As I had said, we are risk-based. It all depends on the assessment of risks, what stance we would be taking. Inflationary pressure of the two-pot system, the impact of the two-pot system on either inflation or growth is built into our forecast. Not an easy one because we can't quite tell how much would be withdrawn. So we have got two scenarios, one being a high withdrawal scenario and a moderate drawing scenario. But even if you were to get that right, it depends on whether people channel that into consumption or they channel it into debt reduction. Of course, if they channel it into debt reduction, it offers consumers a lot more buying power almost on a permanent basis going forward because you would have retired the debt. It will be a different ball game if the consumers all just go and consume. And some of the narratives that has been coming had been that households are under pressure, under debt pressure. If they are under debt pressure, it doesn't make sense for the households to withdraw the money and then go and spend it. The correct thing to do would be to reduce the debt, and if you have repaid the debt, what that means is that the amount every month that you are paying towards debt repayment is now available for spending or for saving. Ntando, the rand has always been pointed out as one of the risks, and when we talked about the risk, we basically talked of a two-sided risk, and we are repeating that here. If the rand depreciates, it could lead to a higher inflation. If it appreciates, it might help to sustain the disinflationary momentum, mainly through the imported component of core inflation, and core inflation does reflect for us a preferred measure of underlying inflationary pressures. SAP's real rate gap relative to that of the US, always useful to look at that, but we are not targeting interest rates. We are targeting inflation. And the point of departure should be, what is the inflation differential between the US and South Africa? And for as long as our inflation is higher than that of the US, that means that there is a risk that our currency would depreciate at least by the inflation differential. But we are not targeting the gap. But we set real, which also became an interesting one, because at yesterday's rates of the US, where they end up with 4.75 to 5%, if you use 5% for ease of calculation, that means the gap between the US and South Africa is 300 basis points in nominal terms. But it's a different ball game when you start to bring in inflation, because we have got higher inflation. But once again, you want to analyze that gap, look at what the future inflation trajectory would be and what are the risks attendant to that inflation trajectory, and it might give you a better idea of what the real interest rate gap between the US and South Africa is. What really drives flows to South Africa is not so much.
That's the Reserve Bank Governor, Letsetja Kganyago, announcing and answering questions that journalists and explaining some of the thinking behind the repo cut. Repo rate has been cut by 25 basis points. We'll talk about some of those talking points with Elise Kruger, an independent economist, next.
Hey, you know, Ntwana, if I could, I'd fly to Dubai.
Here we go again.
First class, Exeni. Ngithi shwe. Get myself a V12 Beast and a mansion with Instagram-worthy views.
You don't even have Instagram.
Imagine seeing the city skyline from my bedroom, watching MasterChef SA while I have my very own MasterChef in my kitchen. Forget the queues at the cinema. I'd have one in my crib, Joe. I'm talking 7.1 surround sound and a 120-inch 8K TV whilst I'm sipping on some grapes. I'm talking luxury, Ntwana. What do you know about that? Let me school you, bro. Tune into Dubai, Buying the Dream. Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. on S3. And channel your inner luxury. Only on S3. Open up.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
Eintracht Frankfurt is searching for their third win to keep a decent position in the top half. However, Borussia Mönchengladbach have a big assignment to achieve their second victory to move up the ladder. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch the mouth-watering clash between Eintracht Frankfurt and Borussia Mönchengladbach this Saturday, 21 September at 6:30 p.m. Live everywhere for everyone, always on SABC+. Also available on sabcsport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Is there ever a bad time for a good conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM. SAFM.
Jon Gericke and Ashraf, it's the National Pulse, 24 minutes past 3. Let's talk about this lowering of the interest rates, 25 basis points. So it's 11.5% of the banks for you and I. The banks get a repo rate of 8%. What does all of this mean, and what was the thinking behind it? Elise Kruger is an independent economist, been watching all of this. Elise, good afternoon to you. First of all, conservative side, although the Reserve Bank governor did say they were thinking of maybe not moving it at all. So grateful for little mercies.
Good afternoon, John. Yes, it was interesting for me to hear that there was somebody, advocating for a no change. I would have thought the debate would mostly be between 25 or 50. I wouldn't be surprised if the governor himself was the one that was advocating for no change, being so conservative always about inflation and about monetary policy. But I do think today I heard in the statement quite a dovish view on inflation in general. The Reserve Bank, did revise their own forecast notably lower. For 2024, it's a cut of 0.3 to average of 4.6, and for next year, a cut of 0.4 to an average of 4%, which is even lower than my own forecast for next year. So they've been quite, I would say, forthcoming in the reduction in their view. And then the Reserve Bank governor also then stating that, yes, inflation not so important, we must look forward. Now, if they do look forward with their own forecast suggesting 4% average next year, then there really is still scope for them to cut significantly more. And I think they wanted to start conservative because they've been talking conservative and they didn't want to surprise the market with the sudden 50. To just been out of line, I would say, with the nature of the committee. But in between the lines, what I've listened to and what I've seen is that they also are on the page of very moderate inflationary pressures in the economy and an open door for further cuts.
Was there, or did I hear correctly, that in 25 he's looking at around 7% and reaching that target next year?
Yes, there was a mention towards the QPM quarterly prediction model suggesting a level around just above 7% in mention. So then we're talking about 125 basis points from the top where we started. That's pretty much in line with my view. I mean, if you look at the current real interest rate scenario, it is still quite restrictive, despite the fact that we've got a small cut today. It's still a high real interest rate, and there's definitely still scope for them to bring that down.
Yeah, it's still very high. I was doing some of the calculations here. If somebody has a 2 million rand home loan, they're going to save $350 a month, which is half a tank of petrol. So it's there, but it's not going to have everybody spending money suddenly, is it?
Yes, indeed. It's still a small relief, but I think one should start to look at this a bit broader. If you think about the fuel price relief at the pumps, and you're starting to talk about, say, 4.50 per litre relief compared to a few months ago, and you start to multiply that into the number of times you fill your car, then the 350, of the interest rate gets added to maybe a saving of similar size or a bit more on fuel. Then you're starting to talk about an amount closer to 1,000 rand per month. Then it starts to add up. So I think there's a couple of tailwinds that should at least over time now support households. And if you think about the two parts, which he also quickly alluded to, not saying that's adding significantly to either inflation or growth, but it could also, on the margin, help some of the households. And, a couple of things are just adding up here.
He did mention food price increases. The fuel is helping. Electricity is helping. Food not helping. But he did mention the international pressure. And it's not just the interest rates overseas, but there are tensions. Middle East tensions are growing. There's an election in the US coming. So some of those risks, I guess, are telling as well.
Yes, risks will always be around. That's not something new, I want to say, for this year or so. But it is elevated globally since last year, and actually since the past 2 years. But it's not constantly playing out as a pressure, meaning oil price sometimes would spike if there's a bit of negative action in the Middle East, but then it would also moderate again based on economic fundamentals, as we are seeing right now, with the oil price at low 70s. So yes, it could potentially play out or it could not. So therefore it remains, I would say, a latent risk that one should just keep an eye on.
Okay, so do you see the interest rates coming down a bit, or do we forget about what the Reserve Bank is saying and just slowly focus on that inflation rate, and that will lead the Reserve Bank?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, their own forecast suggesting below 4% quarterly averages for quarter 4 and the first 2 quarters of next year. I mean, if that is not telling you that, inflation is well under control in South Africa, then I think, it's going to be hard to sell anything to the Reserve Bank. So I think their own figures are suggesting that inflation has moderated, it's stabilizing at levels where they are comfortable, it's in our target band, it is actually below 4% for some quarters. So I think we will see further cuts in each of the meetings coming up. Whether we will see more than 25 at a time, I think that is probably not going to be an easy sell. I think we'll probably see 25 at each meeting, probably until the middle of next year.
Elise Kruger, thank you very much. Independent economist helping us through with some of the reasons why that 25 basis points was announced today. A cut of 25 basis points. The repo rate is 8%. The prime rate that the banks will give you is 11.5%. You're with SAFM. I'm sure that's making news headlines. Let's see what else is making headlines around the world with Utsile.
Thanks, John. With good news for indebted consumers, as the Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee has decided to ease interest rates by 25 basis points. President Cyril Ramaphosa says a commitment to serve the people of the country better would be a fitting tribute to the late former Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan. He was delivering a eulogy during his special official funeral, Category 2, at the Durban International Convention Centre earlier this afternoon. And a man has been arrested in the Georgian capital, Tbilisi, on suspicion of murdering the country's most prominent transgender woman. Details at 4 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. The N1 north up through Midrand's under a bit of pressure today. There's a crash at New Road, so traffic already backlogging into the Beclue interchange. So if you're leaving Joburg up through Midrand direction Pretoria, that is quite a backlog to work through. Further up, the Zen queues from Botha Avenue on the northbound going in towards the roadworks at the R21. If you're southbound, there's also queues from Rigel down to that works area at the R21. And then there's another delay between Old Joburg Road and Samran Road. That's a broken down vehicle on your way to Joburg, which is causing that delay. The R21's been pretty heavy today with an additional lane closure just north of Olifantsfontein on your way to Pretoria. That queue is still heavy. And the M2 leaving central Joburg, a crash near Joe Slovo Drive, so quite a backlog already from the Crown interchange. There's been some blasting today at Cliffdale, so very heavy backlogs, particularly if you're leaving Durban. There's a queue from Shongweni up Key Ridge towards Cliffdale, and from Hammersdale to Cliffdale is pretty slow on your way down to Durban. Also the N3, Ashburton through to Pietermaritzburg's Market Road. That remains heavy after an earlier blast there as well. And Cape Town today, the N1 outbound already queuing to Okavango Road, and Nelson Mandela Boulevard queuing up from Searle Street all the way through to Hospital Bend and through towards Mowbray Main Road. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Tumi, good afternoon. Please don't tell me you're going to talk about the cricket.
I'm going to start off with football, actually, and not so good news in football.
Oh, no. What's happening?
A very good afternoon to you, John, and our listeners. Yes, I did say not so good news because tickets to the MTN 8 final between Orlando Pirates and Stellenbosch FC taking place on the 5th of October at Moses Mabhida Stadium are sold out within just 4 hours. Pirates coach Jose Rivero is chasing a total of 26 million rand in 3 years as the Buccaneers have won the last 2 editions. First prize, 10 million rand on the table. So if you're still planning to buy tickets to the MTN 8 final, Askis, you have lost out. Meanwhile, Kaizer Chiefs legend Lucas Khadepe says that a victorious Kaizer Chiefs is good for the happiness index of the whole of South Africa. Chiefs finished 10th last season and watched on during the first few weeks of the new season as teams competed in the MTN 8, not forgetting that they started their Bedway Premiership campaign on a high. And according to Khadepe, he says that positive results from the Glabber boys uplifts the spirits.
I mean, it shows, It shows, the impact of the club and the magnitude of the impact that they do, not just in South Africa, but in Africa. because it's a big club and it's important that they do well. They lift up the spirit of the country, just by the first game and winning, and not just winning, but I think for me they played very well. You can see even the players that they acquired, Sereno and all of them, they're doing well because they realize now that they're playing for a big brand. And that brand needs to to be at the top level. And when you have teams like Orlando Pirates, you've got teams like Mamelodi Sundowns that have done well. They've Sundowns set a standard, and we got to live to that. As Kaizer Chiefs, because we know how big that brand is and what it does to the community when they do well.
Elsewhere, Sevilla utility player Jesus Navas will retire at the end of the year due to an arthritic injury. Now, Navas has enjoyed impressive longevity throughout his playing career, making a club record 692 appearances for his hometown club, Sevilla. Then in rugby, Jason Jenkins is set to make his debut for the Sharks, while Lorenzo Julius will return from injury against the Lions in the 2024 Currie Cup decider at Ellis Park on Saturday. Head coach John Plumtree has otherwise stuck with an unchanged Sharks 15-23 from the lineup that crossed swords with the Vodacom Bulls in Pretoria last week, making just 2 changes to the starting 15. Then in cricket, Essex have been fined around £100,000, which is more or less 2.3 million rand. This is after admitting charges relating to the systematic use of racist language or conduct at the club between 2001 and 2010. The club were charged by the cricket regulator in June, having been alleged to have brought the game into disrepute. It came after a number of former players made allegations in 2021, prompting a report to be ordered by Essex, which found a number of former players were victims of racist abuse and poor treatment from some of the players. Then ending things off with golf, Rory McIlroy believes that live defectors Ian Poulter and Lee Westwood are too far removed from the current crop of European players to be considered as future Ryder Cup captains. Poulter and Westwood resigned from the DP World Tour last year to avoid paying fines to switch to live, but Poulter, speaking in an interview with an AI English translator, he said that he retained hope that he would be able to captain Europe in the future. With that said, it's a wrap from my side. I'll have more on other sports in the next hour. And John, can we just stay away from cricket for now?
Yeah, you and I don't think we should cover cricket, the two of us.
Especially when it comes to the national team.
Yeah, things are not looking good. And we're not even going to, you and I are not even going to mention the Sharks on tomorrow, because that was also bad news. So, shh, keep quiet. Yeah, all right, more sport with Tumi coming in an hour.
Are we ready for a real conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Africa Chivembe. As trees and flowers blossom, the nation gets brighter and excited for sporting action. Tune in to SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. SABC Sport celebrates the nation's diverse culture and heritage. Happy Heritage Month. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Think bigger than just a banking partner. Think a team of specialized experts supporting you to make better financial decisions to enable your growth aspirations. Think a strategic partnership, providing indispensable advice to help you make the right moves. Think bigger. Think Nedbank Commercial Banking. For more information, visit nedbank.co.za. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider.
Grass will suffer when Golden Lions collide with Natal Sharks. They both target the gold medal. Gauteng tackles KZN. This is the Currie Cup final. Catch the incredible battle of Mzansi's great rugby teams, Golden Lions versus Natal Sharks. The Saturday, 21 September at 3:30 p.m. live on SABC2. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Do great solutions start with good conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. You are listening to Jon Gericke on SAFM.
It's just about 20 to 4. We're going to go and catch up with where Ashraf Gade is, because he's been away for the week. He'll be away next week and a couple of days after that as well. So we're going to catch up with Ashraf and see, why isn't he in this hot seat? And why do you have to listen to me? That'll come up later on in the show. Also, some solemn news and maybe some good news as well. The remains of 16 South African freedom fighters that were buried in Zimbabwe are going to be repatriated and have reburial in South Africa. It's going to all happen around the Heritage Day commemorations on September the 24th. They had sought shelter in Zimbabwe during the apartheid era. They lost their lives in exile, but now they'll be repatriated back to South Africa. So a solemn moment, but also a little bit of good news that they'll finally be able to be laid to rest. Let's take a couple of voice notes, though. 0614 104 107. A couple of comments on the repo rate cut.
A very good afternoon, John, and the listeners of SAFM. I think let's welcome the decision by the MTC to cut the repo rate by 25 basis points. I think one of the reasons is the political stability, which includes the formation of the government of national unity. I think that decision was also informed by these political developments, because between April, May, and June, the markets placed a wait-and-see attitude. And also the last one is that the ongoing transaction between growth support, what that is undergoing, and a positive response from the investors should also be commendable. So I think these are very, very crucial times, and we appreciate that. It's Wandile Ngceba, Bolotwa Village.
Good afternoon, John. On monetary policy, the Reserve Bank has done exceptionally well over the years in achieving their inflation targets. However, I disagree with them strongly on their second mandate of trying to achieve full employment through the use of a high inflation target of 4.5%. In fact, we have seen an increase in the number of people who are unemployed even before COVID-19 began. So they really have no justification in having a high inflation target of 4.5%. They might as well cut it to 2% like it is in developed economies and make life more affordable for us all, because they have failed in their experiment of trying to achieve full employment through the use of a high inflation target. Thanks, Lionel Whitbank.
Thank you, Lionel. We'll take other voice notes and your calls as well. You can always call us. Lines are always open, 086 000 2032. And you can send us a voice note or a text on 0614 104 107.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk. You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM. SAFM.
Lucy Mtuli is the executive of Itala Development Finance Corporation Properties to talk about the role of Itala units within the province of KwaZulu-Natal, how they are helping service entrepreneurs or investors seeking commercial property space. Also, some of the milestones reached during the Itala Properties rebuild program of properties that were damaged during the 21 unrest. Malusi Mtuli, thank you very much for joining us. First of all, what is Itala in a nutshell?
So Itala is obviously a development finance corporation, John, which is owned by the KwaZulu-Natal government. It operates as an entity. One of its focus area, or one of its main business units, is Itala Properties, which is a very unique landlord in that it operates within the premises of KZN and pretty much services the full spectrum of potential tenants, starting from startups, SME, all the way to big business, multinational businesses that are part and parcel of our portfolio in our estates.
All right, so who could use the properties? You mentioned from small SMEs, so like somebody who's doing pottery or an artist?
Absolutely. Sure. All and sundry. Remember, Itala carries a developmental mandate, and that being to promote businesses and create employment. So we cannot shy away from accommodating even a small business that is starting out. And that actually makes us unique, because more often than not, typical landlords will always look at how sustainable is the tenant is and on what sort of cash flows are presented. We have an SME portfolio that is dedicated specifically to house the smaller tenants. and we not necessarily look to turn a profit there. It's more to break even. We're making a loss currently, I think, on that part of the portfolio, but it's obviously a necessary loss because even if 3 out of 10 of the small businesses become successful, we do know that the impact is actually that much bigger, I think, down the line.
I love that business model where you grow with your small developments, with your small businesses, and as they grow, obviously they'll start making money, which is fantastic. Do you think where are you in the province? You mentioned KwaZulu-Natal. Are you north, south, central?
We are all over KwaZulu-Natal. We've got a portfolio that is on the northern part of KwaZulu-Natal. We also have one that is central and obviously a Midlands portfolio, as well as the south of KZN. So we pretty much cover the entire footprint of KwaZulu-Natal. We've got industrial parks as part of the mix in there, very big self-contained industrial parks, one in Isitebe and Mandeni, very dominant assets in our portfolio, as well as one in Amatadeni and then Ezakeni. So in terms of industrial parks, that's where we position. But we own about 25 shopping centers that are spread across the whole of KZN. We also have light industrial properties. We also have ethylene parks that I've already touched on, also scattered around KZN, but with the focus as well of making sure that the rural setting or the rural markets are actually not left out in as far as having opportunities to trade and grow businesses and create employment.
Do rental rates vary depending on where you are in the province? If you're out in the rurals, then will it be less? Because obviously those small businesses might not have as much money.
Absolutely. But I must also add, John, that our portfolio is unique as well in the sense that if you actually compare us with all the landlords that you find elsewhere in the province, you probably extend even beyond the province. Our rental rates comparatively are significantly lower than where the market is actually charging. And that's got to do with that developmental mandate. Yes, we've got the privilege that our portfolio is ungeared, and we probably don't pay as much tax as the other landlords or portfolios actually pay. But that benefit is then passed on to, I think, the tenants. And the aim is just overall to ensure that you promote business and you attract tenants and industry into the province so that our main shareholders, being the people of KwaZulu-Natal, get to benefit from jobs and opportunities.
Now, tell us about this rebuilding that you've helped with after those riots, and I'm assuming some of the floods as well.
Yes. So, again, we were not left unscathed by the civil unrest of July 2021. We lost, sadly, quite a number of assets as a result of the riots. We counted 16 shopping centers that were affected in the entire province. Now, you can imagine out of 25, so it's a significant portion of our shopping centers that were affected. We had 2 light industrial parks in eThekwini region that were affected, as well as about 19 large industrial factories in the 3 estates that you obviously, own. And we've obviously embarked on a project to try and reinstate a lot of these assets. And key to the reinstatement, and for instance, if you look, there's about 292 tenants that were affected. Now, we had to spend about 17 million rand of our money to deal with the minor, low-hanging, repairs that needed to be done in order to restore about 3,000 jobs and get people back to those places of work. So we had to readjust our budget just so that you could obviously accommodate that. But all in all, I think there's about 400 million rand that has been dedicated to rebuilding, I think, to this end, a lot of the damage that happened. Matadeni Industrial Estate is back and up and running. We are busy with finished Nongoma as well, and we're currently busy with a couple of other shopping centers as well in the region to try and actually get it back to where it was before the riots. It has been slow, but there's actually been some significant progress.
Is there opportunity for investors or construction workers to get involved and help you with that?
No, absolutely. So construction workers would obviously benefit by way of, participating, I think, in the rebuild where contractors obviously, been appointed and they're embarking on the rebuild program. But I think the most exciting space that we find ourselves in is that of attracting private sector investors. So John here would obviously identify an asset in our base that perhaps is in desperate need of recapitalization. we obviously would like to attract this private sector funding and investors that can actually come in on the back of a long-term lease, redevelop the asset, own the assets, and run the asset for that limited period of time, after which the asset reverts to us. But obviously during that period as well, we also get to benefit, I think, quite well in as far as the rental that gets paid, whether it's a vacant land or it's actually a dilapidated building. And to this end, we actually have an information session that is set for the 1st of October to obviously engage the markets around some of the opportunities that we have. So we'll have anything from vacant land or dilapidated buildings, where we're saying, look, as a private investor, if you see some commercial value that actually aligns to what we see in this particular asset, you're most welcome to come in. We can engage in a commercial transaction. You can fund the development. You then obviously enjoy the economic benefits over a certain period, whilst you also enjoy those benefits, I think, but to a lesser extent. And then after the lease expires, the asset reverts to Itala.
Right.
And I think we obviously execute the mandate as far as the expectation of the shareholder.
Malusi, how can somebody get a hold of you if they want to get involved or find out about property space if they want to rent it?
Okay, great. So the first point of contact would be our website, www.itala.co.za. And then again, our office contact number is 031-907-8911, 031-907-8911. Or you can actually email us on our customer care email, which is talktous@itala.
All right, I'll give that out again. That line started breaking up. Malusi Mtuli, executive of the Itala Development Finance Corporation Properties. If you want to get a hold of them, that number again, in case you didn't hear it, 031-907-8911. Or you can email them, talk to us at itala.co.za. So TALKTOUS at itala, ITHALA.co.za. Talk to us at itala.co.za.
Kickstart your journey to success in 2025 with the Durban University of Technology. DUT offers programs in the faculties of Accounting and Informatics, Applied Sciences, Arts and Design, Engineering and the Built Environment, Health Sciences and Management Sciences, open for applications for 2025. Applications close on 30th September 2024, but dates may vary. Visit dut.ac.za for a full list of available programs and entry requirements. Apply now through the Central Applications Office by visiting cao.ac.za.
Mzansi, what has become of our country? Gender-based violence is eating our moral fabric, and we can no longer afford to turn a blind eye. This violence affects us all, occurring in various forms including femicide, which is the intentional killing of a woman because of her gender. It takes place anywhere, anytime, even in our own safe spaces at home. Working together with social partners through the National Strategic Plan on GBVF, the government aims to create a GBVF-free South Africa. As we acknowledge the gains from our 30 years of freedom and democracy, let us also work together to break the cycle of GBVF on our home ground. Call the 24-hour GBVF Command Center number on 0800 428 428 or text *120*7867#. A message from the GCIS.
Ziwa non-stop in the Betway Premiership. Abafana Westende have a huge task to secure 3 points, while Batabani Bantwa are ready to fight with all they have to grab an important win. This is Ibolana Semzansi. Catch the nail-biting contest between Golden Arrows and Marumo Gallants this Saturday, 21 September at 2:30 p.m. live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Stay on top of all meaningful, top trending stories right here on SAFM. Leading the conversation. You are listening to Jon Gericke on SAFM.
7 minutes to 4, the remains of 16 South African freedom fighters buried in Zimbabwe will be exhumed for repatriation and reburial in South Africa. It'll commence in the Zimbabwean capital Harare, and the mortal remains will be repatriated ahead of the Heritage Day commemorations on September the 24th, although I am seeing reports that it'll happen on the 25th as well. The freedom fighters had sought shelter in Zimbabwe during the apartheid era. Most lost their lives in exile, were never accorded a decent burial in their homeland, South Africa. Kaya Kumalo has been watching the story SABC News reporter. Kaya, it's a sad story, but who are these families? Who are the people that will be making their way back to South Africa? Kaya, are you there? Right, we seem to have lost Kaya, so we'll get Kaya back on the line. Just a reminder that voice notes are open, 0614 104 107, and you can send us, or you can give us a call as well on 086 000 2032. You're welcome to get hold of us. While we're waiting for Kaya to get up on that, just a reminder that the big news story, and Watsile will be covering that story in a second, is the 25 basis points cuts to the repo rate, down to 8% now, prime rate 11.5%. Let's go back to that story. Kaya, who are the individuals that will be making their way back to South Africa at last?
Well, certainly, John, this is quite a very important project for the South African government. So it's the likes of Duman Noko. As you know, that this is a former ANC Secretary General between the period of 1958 to 1969. The likes of Todd Machigiza as well, a very renowned journalist, and Florence Maposha. So the list really is quite long, but we also do understand that the project will be conducted in Zambia as well. So it's been a very rigorous process, especially for the families where they had to go and identify the graves. As you know, that some of these their family members really died in exile in the 60s, in the 70s, in the 80s. But also, most importantly, this is part of the healing journey for South Africa, John.
How did this process begin?
So what you have here, John, is that this is just about around 2010. So that's when President Cyril Ramaphosa announced that, look, it's quite important to make sure that the countries are able to repatriate these individuals. I mean, also this is part of making sure that their families do get the closure. As you know, that a lot of them really died away from home. They were longing to come back to a free South Africa. And obviously it's a very lengthy process because they must go there, perform cultural rituals so that they are able to return here in South Africa with their spirits. And then on the 27th of September, John, then there'll be a massive homecoming occasion at the Freedom Park where President Cyril Ramaphosa is going to preside, but really talking about the very turbulent past of South Africa. And obviously institutions like the Arts and Culture Department alongside the NPA, Missing Persons Task Team, they've been very instrumental in making sure that this is possible.
And families' involvement in this, and what are they saying?
So, look, this is quite a very important time for the families. A lot of them, they're saying it's about closure, especially the ones that you spoke to in Zimbabwe. They went there. Obviously, it was quite gut-wrenching and emotionally charged where they had to go to these graves and do audits, but also for the forensic as well, because the verification as well must be conducted, through the DNA so that you do see them, that, they do match with those who have died. But this is quite a very important chapter for them because a lot of them, they've been appealing to the South African government to make sure that they do have such a possibility.
As you say, it's a lengthy process. A lot has to be done, not only once they're in South Africa, but just the processes. So take us through what's happening at the moment.
Well, that's right, John. So the exhumation process is still ongoing because then we do understand on the 25th that's when they'll be coming back to South Africa. But also another very important issue here, John, is that, obviously a lot of them really died under quite a number of tragedies through the raids that were conducted by the SADF at the time. But this is quite a very important time for South Africa in terms of their relationship with these countries who were able to open their doors when it was really unpopular to do so. It's a very, very heavy risk where the apartheid regime would just come and really bomb them. So this is quite a very important time for South Africa as well to acknowledge and also to express the gratitude to the likes of Zambia and Zimbabwe. These are countries who are known as frontline states who housed the freedom fighters.
The headline is several South African families. Will there be more as this process gathers momentum?
So far, we do understand that the number will increase. From 16 in Zimbabwe to other countries as well in Zambia. But we do understand in total it's going to be about 55 people being returned to South Africa.
Sure.
And obviously, what is important in this regard is that other countries as well, as time goes on, other countries as well, the likes of Tanzania and many others as part of the liberation route.
And costs always come up. Who's covering the cost of this? Is the government doing this for the families?
So the South African government is doing this for the families, but most importantly, collaborating with their counterparts in Zambia, Zimbabwe, mainly the SADC countries who really open their doors to the freedom fighters.
Excellent. A good news story. Kaya Kumalo, thank you very much. SABC News reporter. Yeah, it's good news, but it's also heart-wrenching. And when you think of the atrocities that happened there, and those wounds are going to be opened up again, which is maybe also a good thing. Just about time for the news at 4 o'clock. Coming up in a little moment, the Special Investigations Unit has told Parliament that PRASA plans to use those two tall trains. We're going to try and understand exactly what's happening here, because those trains were too tall. They couldn't be used. And then they found out, well, actually, they can be used. And the parts for those trains, we have them. We can get them. And our winning feature today, and I love this, there's an animal hospital. And it's called... there's an animal ambulance service in Gqeberha, and it started out with one vehicle. It has many more vehicles now. It's such a good news story. We're going to chat to Angela Du Toit, is the co-owner of Gqeberha's Animal Ambulance Service. It has such a cute name, Angel Wings Pet Medic Ambulance Service. I love it. It's coming up later on. Now the news at 4 o'clock.
Thanks, John. Top stories. Reserve Bank cuts rates by 25 basis points and Ramaphosa pays tribute to Pravin Gordhan. Good afternoon. The cost of borrowing for consumers and businesses is expected to ease after the Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee cut interest rates by 25 basis points. The decision takes the repo rate to 8% and the prime lending rate to 11.5%. This marks the first rate cut since the bank's rate hiking cycle, which began in 2021. The bank says risks to the inflation outlook are assessed as balanced. Reserve Bank Governor Lesetja Kganyago made the announcement in Centurion earlier today.
MPC members considered an unchanged stance, a 25 basis point cut and a 50 basis point cut. The MPC ultimately reached consensus on 25 basis points, agreeing that a less restrictive stance was consistent with sustainably lower inflation over the medium term.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says a commitment to serve the people of the country better would be a fitting tribute to the late former Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan. He was delivering the eulogy during Gordhan's special official funeral Category 2 at the Durban International Convention Centre earlier this afternoon. President Ramaphosa denounced the attacks on Gordhan, calling on elected representatives to serve their people and their country in his memory.
The most fitting tribute we can pay Pravin is to reflect on our own actions, to consider what we can and should each do to serve our people better and our country better, to reflect on what it means to be an activist, for he was the quintessential activist, to consider if we are prepared to weather the great storms that so often confront acts of courage and integrity. These are the issues upon which we must indeed all reflect as we bid farewell to this great son of our country.
Gauteng Health MEC Nomantunkomo Ralehoko says they are planning to bring back retired staff and work with interns to fill in the shortage of medical staff at Gauteng public hospitals. Nkomo Ralehoko was briefing the media on the progress of several infrastructure and staffing projects at public healthcare facilities in the province. The briefing was held at Mamelodi Regional Hospital east of Pretoria today. Nkomo Ralehoko elaborates.
We have a problem of capacity in some of the areas, and we have identified that as a problem. Some of the old nurses now are retiring. But we're bringing them back in the system now because I think HOT brought about 2,000 in the 6th administration that are working on integrated school health program that we're having. But we have a skills development unit in the department that we've activated that must focus specifically on training.
The Special Investigating Unit says it's currently probing more than 100 law firms that have defrauded the Road Accident Fund. The SIU briefed the Standing Committee on Public Accounts about the scale of wrongdoings by law practitioners when representing claimants for road accidents, among other issues. SIU lead investigator Leonard Lekgeto says an estimated 3 billion rand in losses are being investigated at the RAF against private lawyers, including the sheriff of the court.
And SIU is investigating 102 law firms, which includes the sheriff who received a duplicate amount of 340 million. The RAF and SIU has managed to recover some of the funds, and today the SIU has signed EOD to the value of 70.9 million, with actual cash recovery to date amounting to 41.5 million.
And finally, further afield, a man has been arrested in the Georgian capital, Tbilisi, on suspicion of murdering the country's most prominent transgender woman. The 26-year-old is accused of stabbing Kasaria Mitsi to death in her home yesterday. The BBC's Rehan Dimitri reports.
The model and actor had more than 500,000 followers on Instagram, and her openness about identity was considered an act of bravery in the country, which has seen a number of violent homophobic riots organized by far-right groups. Her murder took place a day after Georgia's parliament passed a new law on family values and the protection of minors. It imposes further restrictions on LGBTQ rights, including a continuing ban on same-sex marriages and gender-affirming medical treatment.
Recapping the top story, the cost of borrowing for consumers and businesses is expected to ease after the Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee cut interest rates by 25 basis points. For SFM News, I'm Utsile Saku. Headlines at 4:30.
In sports this hour, Hunt confirms Samir Nurkovic interest and Jack Miller joins Yamaha for MotoGP 2025. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
And on the roads this afternoon, leaving Pretoria on the N4, there's a crash at Simon Vermuten. I understand a pedestrian involved there. That's a heavy backlog if you're trying to get out towards the Mamelodi side. Joburg, crash on the M1 South before William Mandela. That traffic heading to Four Ways now backed into Baklu interchange. And the crash coming out of central Joburg on the M2 eastbound at Joe Slovo. Queue there back into Crown interchange. You're looking heavy as well. Some really heavy traffic between Durban and Pietermaritzburg. This was blasting earlier today around Cliffdale. I think that surprised everybody. The N3 towards Pietermaritzburg is literally standing from Shongweni up through the Key Ridge area in towards Cliffdale. If you're Durban bound from Cliffdale down through Key Ridge, it's fairly heavily backed up as well. Once you get sort of north of that, the Pietermaritzburg Cato Ridge section looks all right, but it's around Cliffdale with some very heavy traffic, and especially if you're Pietermaritzburg bound today. And Cape Town, the N1 service road, slow go in front of Canal Walk, queuing traffic heading towards the N7 highway exit. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 106.6 FM in Bloemfontein.
Ziwa non-stop in the Betway Premiership. Abafana Westende have a huge task to secure 3 points, while Batabani Bantwa are ready to fight with all they have to grab an important win. This is Ikolana Semzansi. Catch the nail-biting contest between Golden Arrows and Marumo Gallants this Saturday, 21 September at 2:30 p.m. live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The following advert is directed at HR and finance executives.
Hi there.
Hi.
Your talk on employee benefits earlier was very insightful.
Oh, thank you.
I'm trying to figure out who I should connect with on how best to structure our company's employee benefits. Any suggestions?
Well, I trust Old Mutual Corporate Consultants. They offer expert advice on optimal investment strategies, retirement fund management, employee benefits design, and much more. This means you'll get the best advice on your employee's future.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions with Old Mutual Corporate.
Old Mutual Corporate Consultants is a division of Fairburn Consult, FSP 9328, a licensed FSP and member of the Old Mutual Group. T's and C's apply.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. You love drama? Then step into the world of Luther as he cracks down on criminals terrorizing the streets of London Monday to Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Top Gear will have you falling in love and rolling in laughter as Jeremy Clarkson and his team take you on an automotive journey like no other, Monday to Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up. S3.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Good afternoon, Jon Gericke in for Ashraf Gadda. And if you miss Ashraf, you're going to hear him a little bit later on because he's been gallivanting around the globe. In fact, I said that he's in Canada, attending the annual One Young World Summit, and a host of South Africans being introduced there at the moment. We'll catch up with him later on in the show. Also, we're going to get up to speed with the SIU and their tender fraud at PRASA. They were talking today. Briefed Parliament Scopa yesterday and spoke to Scopa explaining some of the Swifambu rail locomotives, that contract that was set aside back in 2017. So we'll get an update from Kaiser Kganyago later on in the show. And also coming up there was a press release sent out by the MMC for Human Settlement in the city of Johannesburg, expressing outrage over the vandalism at the Pumlani building. This was a building that had been earmarked to house survivors of a recent fire in Jeppystown. And they went to go pay it a visit, and it was just been vandalized. People have moved in without permission, and now they have to move those people out, and they've got to fix up the building again before these fire survivors can be moved in. This is the reason that they fixed up the building in the first place. So we'll talk to the Ward 61 councillor of City of Johannesburg where that building is. But now, though, at 11 minutes past 4, the big news this morning was the funeral of former Minister of Public Enterprise Pravin Gordhan. It was held at the Chief Albert Luthuli Convention Centre in Durban. We thought we'd play some clips from some of the speakers that took the podium today to pay their respects to Pravin Gordhan. Let's start with a clip from his daughter Anisha Gordhan, who described him as a liberator.
Sanibanani, Dumilang, Molweni, Goeiemiddag, good afternoon and namaste. Your presence here today means everything to our family. The outpouring of love since the passing of my dad has been a great source of comfort for us. We gather here today to honor the extraordinary life of Pravin Jamnadas Gordhan, a name that will forever be etched in the heart of our nation. I thank you for honoring him and for celebrating my father. He loved his country and its people. I'd like to start by asking you to picture South Africa where the cost of bread is 200 rand, where billions of dollars have been paid to Russia for a failed nuclear program, where access to clean water is limited to a bucket per household per day, where load shedding lasts for days, a country where there is judicial incompetence, military interference in politics, where the rule of law and access to medication and basic medical care is non-existent. This is what a failed state looks like. South Sudan, Yemen, Syria are but a few examples. We were very close to this, but this man, our father, is one of the few courageous and honest souls that saved our beautiful country and its people from the brink of collapse. My father, Pravin Gordhan, his eldest brother, Maniklal, and his baby sister, Shanta. My dad, or Daddy-o, as I called him, grew up in a humble home. As a child, my grandmother used to read him stories from the Bhagavad Gita. This was one of his first memories of feeling triggered in his early life to fight against injustices. You know him as the activist, the freedom fighter, the civil servant and liberator.
That's Anisha Gordhan. Former Chief Justice of South Africa Raymond Zondo also paid his respects. The former Chief Justice spoke about Gordhan's role in the formation of the State Capture Commission.
Many of those who have spoken already have spoken from different perspectives about this man. I will speak largely about him in the context of the enormous support that he gave to the State Capture Commission that I had the honor to lead. I'll talk about his commitment in the fight against corruption and state capture, as revealed in the evidence that he gave in the commission. Mr. Pravin Gordhan was one of those whose voices were heard loud and clear after the public protector, Advocate Thuli Madonsela, had recommended the appointment of the commission, but there was a long delay in the appointment of the commission. And he was one of those who called for the appointment of the commission and put pressure on the then president of the country to appoint the commission. And when I had been appointed to lead the commission, and I made a call to all South Africans, in particular ministers, deputy ministers, DGs and deputy DGs, and all public servants who knew something about corruption that had been taking place and state capture, to come forward and share with the commission what they knew. Pravin Gordhan was the first sitting cabinet minister to come forward and testify before the commission and share with the commission what he knew. And indeed, the evidence that he shared with the commission was...
A couple of heavy, good afternoon.
Throw light.
Good afternoon, a couple of real heavy delays.
Sorry, apologies about that. That was the former Chief Justice Raymond Zondo speaking about Pravin Gordhan. A little bit of Rob Byrne at the end. Apologies about that. Let's move on and stay with the funeral. ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula says that they will be lost without Pravin Gordhan.
Comrade PG has departed from us forever, but his name and reputation, deeds of merit, thoughts and outstanding qualities will go down in history and remain immortal in the hearts of the people for generations to come. Let those who are still alive and are good men and women never agree for history to perish and PG's name to drown and to be drowned by people with evil intentions. Your personal and professional biography, as described by your friends and colleagues, paints the portrait of an exceptional human being. It is the story of a deeply devoted family man, a beloved son, a dear husband, a cherished father and grandfather, a treasured brother, and a dutiful uncle and relative to many. That PG was a humble man who loved simplicity is well known. That he was a good and great man is acknowledged fact. That he cherished truth and fairness is not in doubt. That same commitment to the service of others was the defining mark of his life. In remembering you, Comrade PG, we will recall the very many little things that you did that define you as a philanthropist and a humanitarian. The biography we will write in our hearts and engrave on our minds will tell the story of a man of courage. It will speak to us of a courageous and indomitable fighter and humanitarian. It will paint a picture of a person of loyalty to his cause, his principles, his peers, and all his people. It will inform all that cares to listen that PG was human because he could laugh and cry. Today we are poorer without you.
Pravin Gordhan's friend, Mac Maharaj, spoke about his lonely journey after standing up to the ANC about state capture.
This is an occasion to recognize some hard truths. Without the exposures by the media and the fight back mounted by Pravin and his formidable team at Treasury, his deputy Nkabisi Jonas, Lungisa Fuzila, and Ismail Momoniat, and the SARS team, Ivan Pillay, Piet Richer, and Van Lochenberg. Without them, our beloved country could have become a banana republic governed by an autocratic regime adorned with the fig leaf of a hollowed-out democracy. The corrupt hurled everything at PG. Neither the actions of the captured public protector, SARS, SAPS, the NPA, and the power of the presidency to concoct fake intelligence to rubbish a person's identity. Neither that nor the abuse showered on him shook him. Pravin remained steadfast. But he found himself in a lonely place in the fight back against state capture. Within the ANC and the alliance, a few, like Derek Hanekom, stood up.
Mac Maharaj there. Many other people spoke at that funeral. We'll see if we can play some more clips as the show progresses. You're with SAFM, 20 minutes past 4 o'clock. Coming up in a moment, we're going to find out about what's happening with this building that was intended to host fire survivors in the city of Johannesburg. Apparently it's been vandalized and been taken over by hijackers. But first, let's play a voice note on 0614 104 107.
Hi, SAFM. I'd like to remain anonymous. Just for interest's sake, is there any follow-up in terms of the building collapse at Jogot? Is the investigation ongoing? Why is there so much silence around that issue? It was a significant event within the borders of our country, and I think it's a good thing to know what happened there, what went wrong, what lessons could be learned, and so on.
Okay, we'll put it on the diary. We'll see if we can catch up with that. You're with SAFM.
The Battle of Students will produce real drama, passion, and emotions in the Varsity Derby. UJ have a big assignment to emphasize why they deserve maximum points. But Ama Tugs are growing in confidence that victory can add a good boost to climb higher. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch Mzansi Queens of the beautiful game. UJ Ladies FC versus University of Pretoria Ladies FC on Saturday 21 September at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
There's no road our buckies haven't traveled on. Roads to new beginnings. Roads to many firsts.
Sandra, enjoy your day at school.
Roads to delivering precious cargo.
Breathe, honey. We're almost there.
Even roads to saving the day.
Hey, we're going to have to tow you.
With every road that we've traveled for 45 years, we are what a buckie should be. Bold, capable, and reliable. Introducing the new limited edition D-Max 45, equipped with everything you need for every kind of adventure. Isuzu, with you for the long run.
4 dynamic design duos reimagine and reinvent 4 apartments in a century-old building nestled in the vibrant suburb of Sea Point, Cape Town. Armed with creativity, determination, and a limited budget, the duos fight against the clock to transform this grand old dame into a contemporary masterpiece, all under the critical eyes of an expert judging panel. The winning duo will claim a grand prize of 300,000 Rand, with an additional 100,000 Rand going to the fan favorite team, as voted by viewers. Channel your inner wow with My Design Rules, Sundays at 7 p.m, only on S3. Open up. S3.
Call us on 086 000 2032. You are listening to Jon Gericke on SAFM.
23 minutes past 4, the MMC for Human Settlement in the city of Johannesburg, Councillor Mlungisi Mabaso, expressed outrage over the vandalism at the Phumlani building. Now, that's a building that's been earmarked to house survivors of that fire in Jeppystown. That was back in August. Councillor Temba Mkhize is the ward councillor in that area, joins me on the line to talk about the state of the Phumlani building. Councillor, thanks very much for joining us. First of all, what was the Phumlani building before it was going to be earmarked for these survivors? Councillor Temba Mkhize, are you there?
Yes, how are you, sir?
Good afternoon. What was the point? What was this building, Phumlani Court, before it was revamped for the survivors?
I-building yasephumlani court i-vandalize ama-floors ayi-3. So kwa-allocate-wa, I'm sure it was 2017, allocate-wa kwa-allocate-wa-ke abantu abayi-21 families, and then kwaba nama-unit are-empty. So kulama-unit are-empty, kwakhona abantu-ke abangena illegally kulama-unit. So avandalazekile-ke kusenziwe research because asazi ukuthi kwenzakaleni, because sekunabantu abangenile ebuilding ngokungekho emthethweni. I-security company ikhona esigadela i-building but kumosheke ikhona ngaphakathi. Kwakhishwa itofu, ama-4plate, kwakhishwa osinki, kwakhishwa ama-tap, ama-lock, kwamanye ama-unit avandalazekile, amabhavu kuma-bathroom akhishiwe. So i-vandalize leya building, but kune-security ekhona ebeyisigadela yona. So asazi ukuthi kwenzakaleni. I-City of Johannesburg under i-human settlement isenze research ukuthi kwenzakaleni ukuze i-building ithole kule simo ekuyiso njengamanje.
It does sound as if security were involved in this. If they were there, there must have been some shenanigans happening with the security.
Yes, some of securities asehlala khona ngaphakathi, anama-unit ngaphakathi, while engamagadi kuyo leya building. So i-security company-ke i-decide ukuba suspend abanye, and then abanye yabashifta yabayisa kwamanye ama-site, yaletha-ke amagadi amasha kuleya building. So i-security company besigadela leya building i-involved kwi-damage eyenzeke ngaphakathi.
What is going to happen to the people these people that were involved in the Jeppestown fire? They've been housed in soccer fields at the time. It wasn't really suitable. So where are they now?
Ngizosisa nje ukudlulisa amazwi eduze emndenini eyashonelwa abantu abayi-4 uma kusha leya building. So right now sibabeke kuma-temporary tent eKazeni Sport Ground, and then i-human settlement under i-City of Johannesburg ise-busy for ama-preparation ukuthi sizoba move sibayise kuphi for temporary accommodation. But for now ayikho i-building abasayi-appointile ukuthi sizobayisa kuyona. So basenze research ukuthi iyiphi building mhlambe ezoba right esizogcina sibayise kuyona. But for now ayikho abasayi-appointile, basabheka nje kuma-building abo ane-base, and then bese sibuka ukuthi siba nikeza kanjani i-permanent accommodation.
So Phumlani Court is now out of the question. They're not going to be moving to Phumlani Court because I'm imagining there needs to be a lot of work done on that building now.
For now, I'm not sure because Phumlani Court is vandalized.
Right.
Ivandalizekile, imoshekile. So angeke ngithi sizobayisa khona because ayikho esimene si-right ukuthi kungaba nabantu esiba-allocate khona. Ivandalizwe abantu abahlala ngaphakathi kwi-building.
Are they currently occupants of this Phumlani building?
Sorry?
Are there occupants in the Phumlani Court now?
Yes, bakhona ba-allocate-iwe khona ngo-2007, ama-families ayi-21.
I mean illegally, the illegal people, the people that have vandalized this building.
Yes, bakhona ngaphakathi abantu abangene ngokungemthetho illegal abakhona lapha ebuilding because ngokwesithi ya-allocate abantu abayi-21, but now is more than 100 ama-unit asenabantu ngaphakathi abazingenele illegal.
What's being done to remove them, and where will they go?
I'm not sure. I-decision ezothathwa i-human settlement kwi-City of Johannesburg ngalabantu abalapha ngaphakathi because bangene ngokungemthetho, but angazi i-department izokwenza njani for ukubakhipha ukuze sikwazi ukuthola lama-unit esiwadingayo for uku-allocate labantu aba-involved kwi-fire building le yenzeka lapha eJeppestown.
Councillor, this kind of falls under you. Do you have, in your area, how many hijacked buildings are there, and are they being cleared out? The city of Joburg was very proud of the fact that they were sorting this problem.
Eqinisweni maningi kakhulu amabhilidi ahijackiwe ewardini yami lapha eJeppestown. I-most yawo bekungama-companies, bahamba abanikazi bama-companies bashiya ama-building. So abantu ngokungabi nazo indawo zokuhlala nokuswela indawo zokuhlala kwi-City of Johannesburg because sikwi-CBD and kunzima ukubhenefitha kwabantu base-inner city kuma-RDP. So basebenzisa wona lama-building for ukuhlala while indawo zokuhlala bengenazo because abantu abaningi abasebenzi aba-afford ukuya kulezi indawo ezi-right okubhadala kuzo. That's why-ke begcina bengena kumabhilidi ngokungemthetho benza imkhukhu phakathi and then bese bekwazi ukuthi behlale khona.
All right, Councillor, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much. Councillor Temba Mkhize is the Ward 61 Councillor in the city of Johannesburg. Let me just see if I can briefly explain what the Councillor was saying. So there was this Pumlani building, this Pumlani court, and the city had planned to relocate these fire victims to this court. And it's been vandalized. Water pumps have been stolen, taps have been stolen, and it's there's water pumps costing 100,000 rand. 4 of them have been stolen. Security was there, and some security people live there. But for some reason, these people were still able to vandalize the building, destroy the building, steal a lot of things. 100 people are living illegally in this Pumlani court. So there are others that are living there that have been repatriated there, but 100 people are living there illegally. The council is saying that there are plans to remove them and send them elsewhere. Did he answer where they were going to be sent? I don't think he answered. He's not sure where they're going to be going. And towards the end, when I was asking about hijacked buildings in the city, he says Jeppies Town is renowned for hijacked buildings where businesses were there and they moved out, and people that can't work or can't afford rent have moved in and they've hijacked those buildings. So this is an ongoing story. We'll keep a close eye on that. You're with SAFM. It's 4:30.
Thanks, John. In the headlines, the cost of borrowing for consumers and businesses is expected to ease after the Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee cut interest rates by 25 basis points. President Cyril Ramaphosa has denounced what he called attacks on the late Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan. He was delivering his eulogy at Gordhan's special official funeral Category 2 at Durban's Nkosi Albert Lutuli International Convention Centre earlier this afternoon. And Lebanon's Civil Aviation Authority has banned pagers and walkie-talkies from all flights operating out of Beirut International Airport. Details at 5 o'clock with Greg Hoss.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Steve's heavy on Joburg's N1 South today. A crash before the Willie Mandela off-ramp to four ways. That is a queue that gets right back into Buccleuch and halfway up the N1 towards Allendale Road. So from about Yatske River, you'll see the traffic. And that traffic goes into Buccleuch and then all the way down to that four ways off-ramp. Big delays leaving Pretoria. Today on the N4, a crash involving a pedestrian at Simon Vermeulen. That traffic is now back through Rousseau Street and back to Watermeyer and getting back towards the N1. So that's worth avoiding. You've got Pretoria Road to the north. You've got Linwood Road to the south. Both options will get you out of that very heavy backlog heading east from the N1 today along that N4 eastbound. Still very heavy between Shongweni and Cliffdale on the N3 heading through towards Pietermaritzburg. Traffic not really recovering from some earlier blasting in that Cliffdale area, and very windy, some very strong winds across the Durban region ahead of some pretty rough weather on the way. So we're already looking at least one tree in the Mount Edgecombe area that's come down. Drive safely amongst that wind. And Cape Town today, the N2 outbound, not as bad as you might be expecting. Bit of traffic to Hospital Bend, get through that, and it eases quite nicely towards the airport. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkgapele.
Tumi, I see you planning a little Arsenal soundbite. Big Champions League. I still don't understand it, but what else is happening today?
We're definitely looking forward to it. But before that, SuperSport United coach Gavin Hunt has opened the door for a reunion with striker Samir Nurkovic, who has become a free agent. Now, the Serbian forward last week mutually terminated his contract with TS Galaxy on the eve of the Betway Premiership, despite scoring 10 goals in 29 matches in the only season that he played for the Rockets. Hunt, who worked with the forward at Kaizer Chiefs, has confirmed his interest.
It's an option, big option for us, obviously. If we can, it's become available, but I'm not a bean counter, so it works differently.
But I suppose there's no hurry, he's a free agent. But
it is a hurry because we got a game on Saturday, you know what I'm saying, and we're struggling up front, We're playing midfield players there, and so it is a problem for us. So hopefully we can do something between now and me getting on the phone there now again,
Then Mikel Arteta insists that Arsenal are on the right path to major honours as they prepare for the start of their Champions League campaign against Atalanta. The Gunners are still searching for a first Champions League success while they wait for the Premier League title stretches back to 2003-04 season. Arteta says that he's looking forward to tonight's clash.
Well, it's different. So here we are playing on a Thursday night in Champions League, which is different, but really happy, motivated, very enthusiastic. First game, a really tough place to come. They built something amazing here, and it was a beautiful story what they achieved last season. But for us as well, it's a new season, and we really want to kick on the right way.
Moving on to tennis, Coco Gauff has split ways with coach Brad Gilbert after 14 months together. Under Gilbert, Gauff won one Grand Slam title, the 2023 US Open. She failed to defend her title at Flushing Meadows this year, losing 3-6, 6-4, 3-6 to Emma Navarro in the fourth round, and her game was ridden with 19 double faults. Now, we are yet to find out who Gauff's next coach will be, but we'll keep a close eye on that developing story. Meanwhile, Kei Nishikori struggled with injuries as he crashed out of the Chengdu Open in straight sets to China's Shang Jingcheng 6-4, 6-4 today. The former US Open finalist fought through what appeared to be a discomfort in both his right elbow and left knee during the match before finally succumbing to Shang in the first round clash. In rugby, Springbok prop Thomas du Toit says that the scrum duel between South Africa and Argentina will be a clash of titans and a huge battle until the final whistle. The two teams meet in Saturday's penultimate round of the Castle Rugby Championship, a test that could either see the Boks clinch the title or set up a decider next week in Nelspruit. In motorsport, Red Bull KTM factory racing rider Jack Miller has signed a one-year contract to join Pramac Yamaha for the 2025 MotoGP campaign. The Australian thus returns to the team that he raced for with Ducati machinery from 2018 to 2020. On that note, it's a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
Thank you, Timmy. More sport coming up later on. Headlines coming up at 5 o'clock as well. Looking forward to find out if she's going to mention any cricket news. I think we're avoiding it. Or do we? We'll find out.
Ziwa non-stop in the Betway Premiership. Abafana West 10, they have a huge task to secure 3 points. While Batabani Bantwa are ready to fight with all they have to grab an important win. This is Ikolana Simzansi. Catch the nail-biting contest between Golden Arrows and Marumo Gallants this Saturday, 21 September at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the
The following advert is directed at HR and finance executives.
Hi there.
Hi.
Your talk on employee benefits earlier was very insightful.
Oh, thank you.
I'm trying to figure out who I should connect with on how best to structure our company's employee benefits. Any suggestions?
Well, I trust Old Mutual Corporate Consultants. They offer expert advice on optimal investment strategies, retirement fund management, employee benefits design, and much more. This means you'll get the best advice on your employee's future.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Corporate Consultants is a division of Fairburn Consult FSP 9328, a licensed FSP and member of the Old Mutual Group. T's and C's apply.
Tune in to catch the rebirth of Mavango's new season on SABC2 every Monday to Friday at 9 p.m. and experience the drama and excitement with new intriguing characters like Dr. Nonhlanhla Ximba, played by Leleti Khumalo, and of course your usual faves, Azwindini, Rendani, Tebogo, and yes, of course, Khosi. It's renaissance of new beginnings, loves, secrets, and betrayals. Remember, every Monday to Friday at 9 p.m. on SABC2.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Makwe Masalela is Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. Predicted the interest rate cut correctly yesterday, but what's happening with Remgo today?
Afternoon to you and to the listeners. Remgro, remember, John, that other than owning the likes of Mediclinic, the likes of Outsurance, they also own 18% of Heineken, and their profits were down 18.8%, representing an accretive impact when it comes to the share buybacks. And unfortunately, a significant driver of the decline when it comes to headline earnings per share relates to the effect of corporate actions implemented in the recent past, the majority of which are non-recurring items, and the difficult operating environment, mainly from Heineken, also contributed to the material decline in profits, and the intrinsic net asset value per share is up a mere 1%, but they managed to increase their dividend per share by 10%, and stocks got what they wanted, that is a 50 basis points cut yesterday from the US Central Bank, and we started the session looking forward to our own interest rate decision and that of the Bank of England, and one must have an open mind that as much as the Fed said that the cut has more to do with them being confident about inflation reaching their 2% target, some market players might think that this aggressive cut has to do more with recession fears, and as expected, Bank of England left rates unchanged, and back home, as predicted, we got our 25 basis points cut, and the knee-jerk reaction was the rand maintaining its gains, and the yield on our South African government bonds fell by 5 basis points, and a large interest rate cut from the US helped oil to recover. Brent crude is up 2% at $74 a barrel, and just like oil, gold traders are happy with the aggressive US rate cut, and we see the yellow metal is up 0.6% at 2,575, platinum up 1.2%, and global markets are continuing to cheer up the rate cuts with the JSE up 1%, but our resources are doing most of the heavy lifting up to 2%. The rand now is firmed 0.2% against the US dollar, is now 17.48, 23.16 against the pound, and 19.45 against the euro.
Makwe, will we see big things happening immediately with this rate cut change? I mean, on the markets, or do things maybe boil a little bit and maybe tomorrow afternoon we see the effect?
I think the effect has already been baked in because this was mainly expected.
Okay, Makwe Masilela, thank you very much, Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers.
SAFM. Prime time all day long. You are listening to Jon Gericke on SAFM.
Going to talk tourism in a little while. Looking forward to that conversation. Big investments happening in tourism, and it's bringing plenty of money into the country. It's huge. We're going to find out a little bit more about that. Then we're going to get an update on the SIU's probe into PRASA. They briefed the SCOPA yesterday, and we're going to talk to the spokesperson about what they had to say. We're going to catch up with Ashraf. Ashraf's in Canada at the annual One Young World Summit, and we're going to find out with Ashraf Gada why isn't he here. What's he doing there? We can find out what the mood is like. A host of South Africans involved there. Let's go to voice notes first. 0614 104 107.
Good afternoon, John. Malema must be sober before 2026 elections. He must go to Nkandla and drink the last cup of coffee or tea, whatever it is. After 2026, you'll get half of the cup of the elections because of his position when it comes to Godan, his position when it comes to state capture, his position when it comes to that VBS. Norman from Brixton.
Oh, John, I'm so disappointed with your guest there, Umkhize, that councillor. They know, he says there are a lot of hijacked building under his care. You know, didn't he know that this one is going to be hijacked as well? And he's claiming that the security are also part of that, and they're still going to do research. Why are they not instituting criminal charges against these people? There's leadership bankruptcy. He comes on air, you know, he's silent. He's silent because they don't lose a cent about what is happening. I'm so disappointed. It's Thabo Manyike here.
0614 104 107 if you want to send a voice note. Let's go to the phone calls on 086 000 2032. Raj in Durban, you want to talk about COSATU's planned strike?
Yes, thank you very much, John. I want to talk about the planned strike by consultants on the 7th or 8th of October.
7th, yeah.
In my opinion, this is a blind leading the blind. strikes were called by unions previously and didn't improve the unemployment situation in this country. The other thing that the unions are calling for is a strike against inequality. How are strikes or work stay away going to remove inequality from the South African people? I'll call upon the people of this country not to follow the instruction by the union. They will ruin you. Thank you. Oh, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do.
But Raj, you got to raise awareness somehow, and if the bosses, the corporations, the government aren't listening, you need to hurt them in the pocket, and that's would be the reason.
I don't understand what you're saying, John.
All right, let me try and explain it slowly. If you have to raise awareness with the employers, right? If the employers aren't listening to you in council or in bargaining, negotiations, those kind of things, you've got to use the power of the people to hurt them at their pocket. Does a strike not do that?
I don't see it that way, John. You know, production is halted. How is it going to help the country? And like I said in my speech, unemployment. How is unemployment going to improve by work and stay away?
It's not going to help you. It's not. It's going to raise awareness of issues.
They're talking about inequality.
Yes.
How are you going to remove inequality from the South African field?
Well, if the employers aren't doing the correct thing,
no way.
You don't think that a strike? So what is the solution? What can a worker do? What power does a worker do to make the change?
They must go to the unions, and if they want to improve the quality of the life, they must go to unions and negotiate for a new wage deal. But calling for strikes and
but they're not getting the wage deal.
Man.
So what next?
No.
You can only ask so many times before you have to take.
There's no way. So what? Must they burn trucks to make the government listen?
No. That's not what they. Hold on, Raj. Two different things. Going on strike is not burning trucks. Let me explain very carefully. Going on strike isn't destruction of property. Going on strike is stopping working. So you're not creating the products that the company needs. I want to ask you, and I asked you this once already, I'm going to ask you again. If a worker isn't getting what they want from the employer, what can they do?
The answer is not to burn buildings and shopping malls.
You didn't hear a word I said, Raj.
No, thanks. Goodbye, John. Goodbye.
Let's go to Butana in Rosebank. How's it, Butana?
Good afternoon, John. You know, I'm so furious.
Tell me why.
11 billion project abandoned. 11 billion, John, no consequences. The money has been siphoned out of government coffers. And John, this is not the only project.
Correct.
There are a number of projects. The Bree Street there, the Bree Street is called Lillian Gold. 18 million just given to the company, and the guy left. And they know the history of the guy. He's not capable to live on project. He left the project in Eldos and somewhere else. Yet they give him work there. To do what? It's saving, John. It's saving. And no consequences.
They say they get the money back, or they'll try and get the money back, but we were talking about Hlaudi Motsoeneng earlier, that 11 million rand that he owes. Do you think he's got 11 million rand sitting in a 7-day account so that he can pay that back or not?
Well, he might be bankrupt now, Hlaudi Motsoeneng. He might be bankrupt. They took years to take on this. They are their own company. They are employees. You know, John, what they are going to do now, they're going to be professionalized. And the next thing, what they are going to be done, they are going to capacity building. You know how much they spend there? 40 billion. And 40 billion down the black hole. There's no crook and thief has been capacitated. They continue stealing.
And we're going to try and work out, try and get a grasp. Thank you, Butano. Thank you. You want to talk about that abandoned building. 11 billion rand. Try and grasp how much 11 billion rand is. There's a million, and then there's 1,000 millions. That's just 1 billion. Now there's 11 of those. it hurts my brain to think about how much money 11 billion rand is and where it can be used. Let's take one more call. Patrick's in Polokwane. Go ahead.
Hi, John. Yeah, look, I just wanted to commend the Reserve Bank for cutting the interest rate by 25 basis points.
Mm-hmm.
I think it brings about, relief, to families, to households, and I was just thinking, John, why can't the governor just slash 3% once?
just whack it down, just for fun.
Look, I wouldn't know how much it will be, but I'm just asking myself, why can't just they be creative and just cut 100 or 150, whatever?
Because for the way I understand it, and I'm no finance expert here, so the way I understand it is if they cut it too much, then we will spend more money, and in us spending more money, shops will raise their prices. So therefore, inflation will go up because we will spend more money.
But I'm sure, John, after having gone through the difficulties that we have gone through,
for sure.
Once you cut them by 150 basis, surely the majority of people in the country will then know that, you know what, we are not going to spend a lot of money. We just get our households correctly, and then we make sure that in future we don't get back to where we have been before. Thanks, John.
No, I think, all right. Thank you very much. Good point. Think about it. What is that figure I gave you earlier? If you have a 2 million rand bond, which I think is it's a big bond, you're going to save $350 a month, all right? So that's 350 rand that you could spend elsewhere. But I think a lot of people, and we've spoken about this a lot on the station, is how many people are in debt. So I feel, do you think we are responsible enough as adults to go, well, okay, this little bit of money that we're now saving, we will put into paying off the debt. That 350 rand less that you're paying into your bond, if you've got a 2 million rand bond. So it's half that. If it's a million rand, it's half of that. $75 if you've got a 500,000 rand house. Would you say, well, okay, I'm going to put that into the credit card debt or into my Woolworths account or into my Foschini account or my Jet account? Will you do that or will you spend that? You see, I think, and that's what the caller was just raising a point now, is do you think we're so burnt, we are in such dire straits at the moment, that all we got to do is think about how we're going to pay off our debt? Interesting thought. Thanks very much.
Hey, Ntwana, if I could, I'd fly to Dubai.
Here we go again.
First class, Exeni. Ngithi shwe. Get myself a V12 Beast and a mansion with Instagram-worthy views.
You don't even have Instagram.
Imagine seeing the city skyline from my bedroom, watching MasterChef SA while I have my very own MasterChef in my kitchen. Forget the queues at the cinema. I'd have one in my crib, Joe. I'm talking 7.1 surround sound and a 120-inch 8K TV whilst I'm sipping on some grapes. I'm talking luxury, Ntwana. What do you know about that? Let me school you, bro. Tune into Dubai, Buying the Dream. Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. on S3. And channel your inner luxury. Only on S3. Open up.
Kickstart your journey to success in 2025 with the Durban University of Technology. DUT offers programs in the faculties of Accounting and Informatics, Applied Sciences, Arts and Design, Engineering and the Built Environment, Health Sciences and Management Sciences, open for applications for 2025. Applications close on 30th September 2024, but dates may vary. Visit dut.ac.za for a full list of available programs and entry requirements. Apply now through the Central Applications Office by visiting cao.ac.za.
Grass will suffer when Golden Lions collide with Natal Sharks. They both target the gold medal. Gauteng tackles KZN. This is the Curry Cup final. Catch the incredible battle of Mzansi's great rugby teams, Golden Lions versus Natal Sharks. The Saturday 21 September at 3:30 p.m. live on SABC2. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Is there ever a bad time for a good conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
You are listening to Jon Gericke on SAFM.
This discussion brought to you by ABSA Business Banking. Your story matters. ABSA. September is tourism month, and the tourism industry is gradually recovering out of the COVID-19 pandemic. Average occupancy rates at accommodation establishments haven't quite reached where they were pro-COVID levels yet. The outlook for the sector seems rosier following that decision to cut interest rates by 25% basis points. Maybe people got money to go on holiday. ABSA is seeing encouraging signs in its own book around tourism investment cycle. Let's talk to Dr. Marlene Lowe, Senior Economist at ABSA Business Banking. Doctor, thank you very much for joining us. Tell us about the hotel sector. It seems that that's doing extremely well in the tourism sector. Why is that different from everything else?
Yeah, John. So I think you've touched on it. So on average, we've seen a good recovery in the short stay accommodation space. Occupancy rate is at around 33% if you consider the sector as a whole. Hotels are faring much better at around 40% occupancy rate. But then at the other end of the spectrum, our B&Bs and guest houses has an average of around 20%. So I think a huge variation around that average. And the story there is really, in our minds, around income. So business and luxury travel has rebounded quite significantly. I think their consumers have been much more resilient, so able to travel and support more luxurious expenditure patterns. Your budget space, so typically your mid-income consumers, which would be the guys that typically utilize the bed and breakfast, guest houses, they are still very much under pressure, and so we see those occupancy rates lagging behind.
So when it comes to investment, this is what you do. Should private sector, somebody who's thinking of opening a B&B kind of thing, should they be a little cautious?
Yeah, I think we've turned the tide, right? So as you rightly mentioned, the 25% basis cut today is one of the steps in the right direction. We've seen in excess of 15% reduction in fuel prices, which will also support demand for a wider range of goods and services from consumers. And then obviously, maybe not directly in terms of short-stay accommodation demand, but the two-pot retirement system that we saw that was implemented at the beginning of the month, that will stimulate growth and over the short to medium term, hopefully create positive spin-offs for the local tourism industry. So I think cautious optimism is the way to go.
How important is tourism in South Africa?
Yeah, extremely important for various reasons. I think it provides us with a resource pool to conserve our natural resources or natural capital. It provides us a way to earn foreign currency. But most importantly, I think it's a labor-intensive industry, and it's a key sector that should play a role in alleviating our unemployment crisis in South Africa.
What is and I don't know if you have this on your books or if you have this kind of knowledge, the local tourism industry, how does that compare to the lovely foreign currency coming in?
Yeah, so I think it plays an important role. We're also have other sectors that are very important players in the generation of foreign currency. There are high-value export crops in agriculture, as an example. The minerals or mining sector is a key player. So I think everyone needs to do their part, and not just in terms of foreign currency earnings, but obviously all the other economic metrics that we should drive to improve the welfare and well-being of all South Africans.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw yesterday, the top 50 hotels in the world were released yesterday, Doctor. And I looked at the price for a night at the number one hotel, and you're looking at, I think it was about 14,000 Rand. We've got hotels that are like that, and I can guarantee you that if you stayed at one of our private game reserves, it would be better than some Asian hotel on a city street somewhere.
100%. So Africa and South Africa has a lot to offer, and I think we have a number of hotels that's also in that top 50. So definitely we are competing with the best in the world.
What do you see as far as investment in the tourism sector in South Africa at the moment?
Yeah, so if we look at our own book, we've seen that credit extension into the tourism sector has gradually expanded over the last year. And I think this is a sign of the investment cycle that is picking up in tourism. This is obviously a leading indicator for sector growth. So in our mind, this momentum that we're seeing in our loan book is extremely positive for the next couple of months and years for the tourism industry.
And let's talk about payments. There was this, obviously, everything shut down during COVID, during lockdown. There was money that had to be moved around. There were loans given. There were holds. What is the current state, and what have we learnt from that lockdown in the tourism industry?
Yes, I think broader than just tourism, COVID has really forced or enhanced the e-commerce requirements from various businesses. And so when you're doing an e-commerce transaction from a consumer point of view, there's two things that's very important. It's the convenience with which you can do the transaction and the the security associated with that transaction. So I think ABSA has gone a long way in investing in the infrastructure and products to back that up. In doing that, we've also realized that the variety in payment channels is extremely important within the tourism industry specifically. And in that regard, we've invested in products beyond e-commerce to support the industry. One of these being ABSA Mobile Pay, which actually turns your smartphone into a merchant device, which we're very excited about for the small and medium end of our consumer base.
It's a two-way conversation as well, because if I book a hotel, I pay for the deposit, whatever, and I want some money back, that always seems to take weeks and weeks and weeks. Are you guys speeding that up?
Yeah, I'll definitely take that back to our product guys, but we are working in supporting the industry in all the ways that we can.
Dr. Marlene Lowe, thank you very much. Senior Economist at ABSA Business Banking. A discussion brought to you by ABSA Business Banking. Your story matters. ABSA. You're with SAFM. Coming up, we're going to hear what the Special Investigated Unit is doing. They briefed Parliament about the Prasa trains, the Swifambo rail locomotives. They were too big, couldn't be used, and then they found, well, actually, they can be used and we can get parts for them. And then we're going to catch up with Ashraf Garda later on. He's in Canada at the annual One Young World Summit. We'll find out what he's doing there. Now, though, 5 o'clock, time for the news with Greg Goos.
Thank you, John. In this latest news update, an interest rate cut and pages banned from Lebanon flights. Good day to you. The cost of borrowing for consumers and businesses is expected to ease after the Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee cut interest rates by 25 basis points. The decision takes the repo rate to 8% and the prime lending rate to 11.5%. Reserve Bank Governor Lesetja Kganyago.
The MPC decided to reduce the policy rate by 25 basis points to 8% per annum with effect from the 20th of September. In discussing the stance, MPC members considered an unchanged stance, a 25 basis point cut, and a 50 basis point cut. The MPC ultimately reached consensus on 25 basis points, agreeing that a less restrictive stance was consistent with sustainably lower inflation over the medium term.
President Cyril Ramaphosa has denounced what he calls the attacks on the late Minister Pravin Gordhan. He was delivering the eulogy at Gordhan's Special Official Funeral, Category 2, at the Nkosi Albert Luthuli International Convention Centre in Durban. Despite being praised for his tenure at SARS and the National Treasury, Gordhan was severely criticised for his leadership at public enterprises, especially on the sale of South African Airways to Takatso Consortium. It's also reported that the country's state-owned entities lost almost 200 billion rand under his watch. But Ramaphosa says the criticism is painful and unwarranted.
These attacks were dishonest, they were disingenuous, they were condescending, and they were patronizing as well. These attacks were also racist, and they were directed at one of our country's foremost champions of non-racialism. These attacks did nothing to diminish PG's standing amongst many South Africans. Instead, they exposed the moral bankruptcy of those who chose to target him and his family. His family suffered immensely from the attacks that were leveled against them. It was shameful then, and it remains shameful even today.
The Tshwane Metro Mayor Celia Brink has reaffirmed his commitment to the city. He held a media briefing today following the withdrawal of its key partner, Action SA, from the ruling coalition. Action SA is now negotiating with the ANC to form an alternative government. Brink, who's also facing a motion of no confidence next week, has been mayor for 18 months, and he claims under his leadership, the city's public service delivery has improved.
The current leadership of Tshwane, political and administrative, is committed to contributing to this project and building a capital city that works for all of its people. So whatever the political games that will play out in and around Tshwane, I want to give you my personal commitment. We will not abandon our responsibility for improving things in Tshwane.
At least 6 people have died in a shack fire in New Brighton in the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro in the Eastern Cape. Police say they were alerted to a shack fire in the Chris Hani informal settlements. It's alleged that a completely destroyed shack was found on arrival. The fire department put out the blaze and in the process discovered the burnt-out bodies of an adult female believed to be the grandmother and 5 children. The cause of the blaze is under investigation. Agri-Western Cape says the water levels of dams in the province following recent winter rains will protect farmers during the dry season. Farming activities were recently dealt a blow by flooding. CEO Yanni Stradom.
Unfortunately, we also encountered some flood damages in certain areas of our province. That includes damages to access roads to farms, as well as roads on farms and infrastructure on farms. The positive is that our major dams in our province are to full capacity, and we're therefore ready for the drier summer season that lies ahead.
Lebanon's civil aviation authorities banned pagers and walkie-talkies from all flights operating out of Beirut's international airport. The BBC's Yusuf Taha has the details.
The move reflects the heightened levels of concern in Lebanon following 2 days of deadly explosions targeting the militant group Hezbollah's pagers and walkie-talkies. 32 people, including 2 children, were killed and thousands wounded. The Iranian-backed group has blamed Israel for Tuesday and Wednesday's blasts, and there are fears the conflict could escalate. The Lebanese army's bomb squad has blown up some suspected pagers in controlled explosions. Overnight, there were extensive exchanges of fire across the Israel-Lebanon border. Hezbollah's leader Hassan Nasrallah is expected to speak later.
The top story, the cost of borrowing for consumers and businesses is expected to ease after the Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee cut interest rates by 25 basis points. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Khus.
And coming up in sports, the Sour Proteas, motivated by loss, and Manchester City could be expelled from all competitions. I'll tell you more on those at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
The N4 leaving Pretoria remains heavily backed up, heading towards Mamelodi, Bronkhorstspruit direction, if you like. The N4 eastbound queuing from the N1 highway down to a collision scene at Simon Vermuten. The road was closed for the emergency EMS helicopter. That has left the scene, but the traffic remains heavy and probably will do for some time. The N1 south in Joburg, an earlier crash at Winnie Mandela off ramp at Four Ways. That's still causing a really big delay through Buccleuch interchange. Routes like Rivonia Road up to Vickhoppen through the highway interchange, and even Bowling Avenue up towards Vickhoppen Road. Very heavy. There's a big impact on sort of local routes around that N1 South corridor today. Durban, very windy. Do take it easy if you're in high-sided vehicles, and particularly if those vehicles are empty. The wind is particularly strong ahead of some weather inbound overnight. For tomorrow morning, I see the N3 toll route warning about the possibility of black ice around Van Rienes Pass between Ladysmith and Harrismith overnight, so and early into tomorrow morning. So please heed those weather warnings, and maybe if you've got any plans to get through there early, it might be a good idea to leave it a little bit later. Staying down into Durban, a crash on the M4 Southern Freeway just by the M7 Bluff exit. That's quite heavy, leaving via Congela and Umbilo coming out of the Durban CBD. And Cape Town, pretty heavy backlogs at Somerset West today. The N2 towards Victoria Street, queuing both ways. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 106.1 FM in Bombela.
We've upgraded. Our new GIS-linked national address database lets us connect with you better than ever before. By visualizing licensed and unlicensed households nationwide, we can ensure timely communication. Our payment reminders are a crucial tool to help you stay compliant and avoid penalties, empowering you to take proactive steps. Efficient electronic communication helps us collect fees seamlessly, bolstering the SABC's mandate in line with Section 27 of the Broadcasting Act. TV licenses, pay yours, make a difference.
Eintracht Frankfurt is searching for their third win to keep a decent position in the top half. However, Borussia Mönchengladbach have a big assignment to achieve their second victory to move up the ladder. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch the mouth-watering clash between Eintracht Frankfurt and Borussia Mönchengladbach this Saturday, 21 September at 6:30 p.m. Live everywhere for everyone, always on SABC+. Also available on sabcsport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Standard Bank Group, the biggest bank in Africa by assets, in partnership with the SOAS, will host the 4th annual Climate Summit on the 1st of October. The summit will host insightful discussions with various industry experts in charting Africa's course to net zero. The annual summit is one of Standard Bank's sustainability initiatives dedicated to driving growth on the African continent. Tune in on our SAFM Facebook page and be part of the conversation in shaping the future of Africa's energy transition. Brought to you by Standard Bank Corporate and Investment Banking.
This Heritage Month, SAFM invites you to celebrate the rich tapestry of our nation's diverse cultures. From the vibrant beats of our traditional music to the flavors of our unique cuisines, every culture tells a story of strength, unity, and identity. We honor the heroes and heroines who laid down their lives for our freedom, reminding us that our shared heritage is what makes us strong. Together as one, we celebrate who we are because our culture is our identity. This Heritage Month, let's celebrate every culture, every story, and every voice. The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
5:10. President Cyril Ramaphosa issued a proclamation earlier this year authorizing the SIU to probe PRASA and recover any financial losses incurred by the state, with the investigation spanning all the way back to 2010, looking into awarding of tenders, including that 3.5 billion rand Swifambo rail locomotive contract, with the court set aside in 2017 due to irregularities in the procurement process. The SIU briefed Parliament Scopa yesterday, and the spokesperson Kaiser Khanyago joins me on the line to talk about this. Kaiser, good chatting to you again. Thanks very much. This is a very wide investigation. Let's talk about what you're identifying first of all. Can you break it down and tell us what you're looking into?
Thank you very much, and thank you to your listeners. Maybe let me take them back. We had a proclamation R57 in 2019 that was looking into that Swifambo rail leasing contract, and also looking at Siangena Technologies, which is the contract for refurbishment of the stations for the 2019-2020, 2010 World Cup. Mm-hmm. And then those ones we then started investigating, and we are done with those, bar a few things that needs to just be closed down. Then when the State Capture Commission happened, then there was in the report of State Capture of Zondo Commission, there was a recommendation that says there must be a special commission again to only look at PRASA. But we then talked to the president, and we agreed that there's no need for that commission. We will do that work. And that is when they extended it to other issues, among others, the ghost workers and the fraudulent liability of claims. And what we have found in the first one, which is the issue of Swifambo, we found that the contract was irregular. We have already set it aside. They have already paid back the money, even though now we hear that PRASA wants to go and rebuy those same trains, right, which is another matter. In as far as the issue of Sangena, we have always also found that there were a lot of people who benefited out of this contract because it was a very huge contract, and there were about 10 entities that have been identified to have received money, and some of these entities involved companies that were related to the former chairperson of the board of PRASA and the former CEO of PRASA and many others.
Okay, so let's just go back. So there's a whole host of PRASA things that you're looking at. Are you able to do this quickly enough? This seems like a huge task for a small SIU.
No, the first two, Swifambo and Siagena, are done.
Okay.
We are now looking into the transaction that relates to fraudulent liability, wherein we are looking into 4,937 claims that were fraudulently done to the insurance. And that we are busy with. Mm-hmm. And then the other one is the ghost workers. We've already identified the modus operandi, wherein when people resign, die, or they retire, they don't take them off the system and they continue to pay. What we then have to determine is whose account do they use to pay this amount into.
The 776 million rand that was distributed amongst these 28 unnamed entities, how far are you down the line with those?
No, we are very close in dealing with that, because we already know that in that Swifambo where the money went, and then all that we need to tie up is the finalization of interviews with the people where the money went to check what the money was for, and then if they can't explain themselves, we then have to take it to the special tribunal to recover that money back.
Okay, because some of those might be legitimate. They might have done work, others might not have. You don't know yet.
Yes, we do not want to just assume everything is fraudulent.
Okay. You are looking to get... There were some trains that were delivered. There were some that are still in Spain that weren't delivered after it was cancelled. So what do you want to do with those extra locomotives?
As far as we are concerned, the contract has been cancelled in its entirety, because there were a lot of things that were very strange. If the contract was 3.5 billion and they had already paid 2.6 billion, but they only received 13 locomotives and they wanted 88. They've already paid more than half of that amount, but they only received 13 trains as opposed to 88, which was very strange to us. Therefore, that money, they've already paid back that money. Swifambo has already paid back that the money. But now PRASA wants to now go and buy them again, after they said that they are not fit for our rail system.
Okay, but you're saying you want those attached, and you want those locomotives to come to South Africa.
Yeah, the ones that are not here must go back. The ones that were here have to be sent back, and the money brought back. That's what we were saying.
I did see reports that these trains can be used.
They are saying that now, and they've taken this matter to court, and we will then have to see, because we are not the ones who said the trains cannot be used. They are technical people in the investigation said that. And now we are not worried about that. We are worried about the way the contract was entered into.
Okay, you're looking at the money.
We found that it was entered into wrongfully. We took it to court, and the court agreed with us, or the special tribunal, and then it was set aside. Therefore, we are comfortable.
Are you looking into the Spanish company Vosloo, VOSSLOH?
Yes, we are, because they are the biggest beneficiary of this. The one part about that is that Swifambo got the contract, but they then sub-license 100%, which is not done. Basically, you are just a conduit, because the work is done by somebody else 100%, and where you get the money, which for us was very problematic.
So they're a middleman?
Yes. You just get in the middle and you get the money for doing nothing.
Okay, we just had a caller now about the 11 billion rand housing project that fell through. It's 11 billion rand gone. As far as you're concerned, has PRASA paid, or have these people paid back the money?
The Swifambo has paid back the money,
and
we are now trying to check what the other money that was paid to other people, what it was for.
Okay. Yeah. Are Swifambo bosses, representatives going to be prosecuted?
That is the responsibility of the NPA, and we cannot speak on their behalf.
Have you given them information?
Yeah, the law is very clear, and as far as that is concerned, where we find criminality, we have to send it to them.
So you've sent it to the NPA?
Yes, we have.
Okay. Let's talk about this unnamed process CEO and the director of one of the entities. You touched on that. Give me more detail.
Yeah, no, we can't give you details of who they are because they have not been charged. Therefore, we have got to respect the law in as far as that is concerned. But when we did the movement of money, we saw that when money was paid somewhere into another company, that company then gave the money, the money to a company that is linked to the former chairperson of the board, and there were transactions in the Sifambo where houses were bought and they were registered in the name of former CEO.
And there was money paid to SARS as well. Why are you looking into that?
Yeah, we just want to understand whether it is the whole amount that needed to be paid.
Right. Okay. And if in fact they did receive it?
Yes, they did receive the money. We just want to check because now we have to look into all the other transactions that went to other people, because you might find that the money that they paid to SARS was only for the money that went to the company itself and not the ones that moved to other people.
Okay. Kaiser, I'm trying to understand. If these are, let's not use this as an example, in other criminal investigations that you've done, these people that are moving money around and trying to money launder and things, is it obvious, or are you guys digging really, really deep to find this kind of information, or are these people just stupid enough to make it obvious?
No, I always make the statement to say they try their level best to make sure that we do not find it. But we have got experienced people who are able to do it.
And you're obviously looking at all the books, and you're looking at checks and all those balances and things and everything to try and find it and put two and two together.
Yes, just to give you a simple example, somebody buys a house for 1.8 million. In a few months, they evaluate that house to be 3 million, and a company buys that house for 6.8 million, and we find that that company is linked to the person who's selling.
Right. Oh, that's a lot of work that has to go into that and work out evaluations. Kaiser, good luck to you guys, and hopefully we see somebody behind bars at some point. Kaiser Kanyako is the SIU spokesperson, explaining to us what's happening with the PRASA trains, where that investigation is. As you heard, things have been handed over to the NPA. Let's see what comes of that.
Welcome to the team, Andile.
Thank you.
What will be your first order of business?
Well, ensuring our greatest assets are taken care of.
Our vehicle fleet?
No, our employees. You see, I want them to feel confident in our company's employee benefits, and Old Mutual Corporate is perfect for that. They take care of everything, from retirement benefits to health and group risk solutions, consulting, and more. Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
TUT Matatsanza ladies are focused on full points as they chase a suitable position in the top half. But UWC want to triumph and pressurize log leaders. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch Mzansi Queens of the beautiful game. TUT Matatsanza Ladies FC versus UWC Ladies FC on Saturday 21 September at 8:30 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game. The Battle of Students will produce real drama, passion, and emotions in the varsity derby. UJ have a big assignment to emphasize why they deserve maximum points. But Ama Tugs are growing in confidence that victory can add a good boost to climb higher. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch Mzansi Queens of the beautiful game. UJ Ladies FC versus University of Pretoria Ladies FC on Saturday 21 September at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Is there ever a bad time for a good conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. You are listening to Jon Gericke on SAFM.
Johnny in for Ashraf at 22 minutes past 5 here. Ashraf, sure he told you, is at the One Young World event in Montreal, where it's still just as not even midday yet. Ashraf, how's it going? What is the One Young World?
Well, I'm in Montreal, firstly, so I probably would say bonjour or merci, which is normal because you may be aware Montreal is very French-speaking compared to Toronto, just so you know, right? One Young World is a fascinating coming together of people, mainly young global leaders, huge emphasis on the word young, that started around 2010, right? and over the period has plugged together some of the brightest young minds and young activists around the world to be able to make significant changes in the world, hopefully for good. So when I say the number, we're talking about approximately 20,000 people over the years. And every year, the heartbeat of the One Young World organization is a summit that takes place. So last year was in Belfast. I think the previous year was in Manchester. And this year is in Montreal. And of course, it goes on rotation, right? So it's the coming together of people, 2,000 people, approximately 2,000 young delegates, right? That's the key part. And I think 30 plus from South Africa. Don't ask me the names of all of them. I don't know, but we'll find out soon enough. Anyway, and then there are some significant South African names of people who are, for want of a better word, councillors or ambassadors amongst the people. Prof. Thuli Madonsela, you'll be very familiar with her. And then we also have, in fact, Tendai the Beast Matawarira. He's been a regular plugger into the One Young World concept. And then Shudufatso Masina was the Miss South Africa, I think 2020, and she's also part of it, speaking about mental health. So you get these young, I think Francois Pienaar, but he's not here today. Francois Pienaar has also been part of it. So these are some of the names of councillors, right? That's really what it is. You may well ask me, what am I doing here? But we'll answer that next.
I was getting the question number 2. Why are you there, Ashraf? Are you a councillor?
I've been called a councillor. My tag says councillor, right? In essence, I'm a moderator. So I've been moderating 3 or 4 of the sessions that will take place. The one that will come up just now, in fact, when I say just now, about 5 o'clock, 5:30 Canadian time, I'll be chatting to Dr. David Suzuki, and many may know him as this absolute warrior for warriors in WARRIOR in terms of climate change. So we'll talk to him, but also there'll be issues around what I call building bricks. That means junior bricks, which I'll moderate on Saturday. Others around entrepreneurship and innovation, and then the African century in terms of finding ways to really build Africa. So that really is why I'm here. I was invited by Kate Robertson, who is a South African born, the founder of One Young World. And then, well, Kate, I was got into her radar, and she said, Ashraf, I need you to come along. And that's really why I'm here.
We'd love to hear what young people think. They just think so differently to the old staid ways that our current leaders are thinking about. Is that part of this sharing of ideas, getting new things, new concepts?
I would think so. Now, obviously, what has happened, I've just come in today, last night was the opening ceremony with massive flag waving of over 190 countries. Today, the sessions have started. So I'll know more just now once we're done with this session. But I mean, in essence, yes, these are, as I've said, some of the most switched on young people in the world. And every year, at least 30 from South Africa gets to get plugged into One Young World. So I would think that if they're that switched on, there will be the time for people that, in terms of reverse mentorship, need to be mentoring some of the older people in the country, because we need dramatic change in problem solving in South Africa, but around the world. Yeah.
There have been many calls saying, Ashraf, when are you back? Please come back. We can't take John anymore. So you are coming back, eh?
I am coming back, yes. Now you know. So.
Ashraf Gardner, good luck to you, and good luck with those presentations as well. We look forward to hearing those stories.
Yeah, listen, you're just someone enjoys Formula One, you'd appreciate this. Yes. I was standing in a queue going on stage yesterday, because yesterday we were all introduced on stage of 7,000 people on stage. And but before we did that, they put you into a queue. So I was with Thuli Madonsela and Tendai Matawarira and others, right? But very importantly, the guy in front of me, I'm like, I know you. And he's like, yeah, okay, I do some work for the United Nations. Yeah. But before that, his name is Jon Gericke. You'd appreciate that.
Oh, really? Yeah. So he's claimed to fame as the UN now, not the head of the FIA.
Yes, yeah. So he's retired now from the FIA, but clearly is a significant player.
That's right. Is he as short as he looks on TV?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Ashraf, good chatting to you. Catch up with you soon.
Perfect. Thank you. Right, there we are.
Ashraf Gardner, who is at the One Young World Conference that's happening out in Montreal, as you heard what he's doing there. He will be back, and he'll be giving us updates and tell us exactly. I love to hear those kind of stories. South Africans flying the flag high. Well done to him. It's 27 minutes past 5. You are at SAFM. We're going to voice notes. Let's go to voice notes. 0614 104 107. We're going to take calls later on as well. I like calls. Let's go to the voice notes on 0614 104 107. How far? Wow, we've got to go far back over there.
Good evening, John. On the issue of road accident fund, is going bankrupt and giving all lot of millions to anyone all over the world who comes here and get injured or otherwise get into accident. They should just disband this unit, the road accident fund. Everyone must just be, or the unit should be in social development, the Department of Social Development, SASSA, whereby if I'm injured, then I'll be taken care of my whole life with a grant, which can be disability grant. So this thing of road accident fund, frauds and everything, too much money going out unexplained. Thank you. This is Ronald.
John, I think I'm relatively intelligent and I'm very broke. And my challenge is, and I think everybody's challenge is, if you make a little bit of savings and you're so broke, sometimes you just actually want to feel human and you go and have that pizza or buy that something that you actually don't really need instead of putting that money back into your overdraft or credit card or whatever. Yeah, David and Kloof, thanks, man.
David, I hear you. I have exactly that same thing. You look at the bank balances and just a whole lot of minuses, right? And then suddenly you get, I don't know, you save, maybe we'll save a bit on the home loan or whatever, and you think like, $350. That's 2 pizzas. It's not much of a tip, but it's 2 pizzas. Like, let's just do it. Come on. Instead of putting it, and I know exactly what you feel.
Afternoon, SAFM and to listeners. It's Selvin Gamda from Durban. John, with those interest rate drops, in fact, I would use that same money, whatever is extra, and I'll pay it back towards my bond.
Good.
Because I know every extra cent you pay towards your bond, you are actually dropping your bond by a fixed term. For example, you're dropping your bond term by 1 year or 2 years. So basically that money, whatever drops by the basis point, I'll put it back into my bond and drop my bond term. That will be my analogy. Thank you.
So if you're spending $10,000, we're going to have to get to Eunice later on, I'm afraid. Eunice, we're going to come back to you later on. If you're spending $10,000 on a home loan now, the interest rate drops down. You're going to try and keep it at $10,000. Try and keep paying that same amount in if you can. And a lot of people can't, though. That's sure. You're at SAFM. Coming up after news headlines, we got traffic with Rob. We've got Tumi with sport. We'll see what she's going to be talking about. We've got our winning feature, but we will take your calls and messages as well. It's 5:30.
Quick look at the headlines. Different views have emerged among political parties in Parliament regarding the electricity tariff hikes aimed at recovering 8 billion rand for Eskom. The Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee's cut interest rates by 25 basis points. And Lebanon's Prime Minister's urged the UN to take a firm stand against what he calls Israel's technological war. A full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still very heavy on Joburg's N1 South on the run to Fourways today. There's a broken down truck at Rivonia and then a crash at Winnie Mandela. So all of that just means a really big backlog that starts back through Buccleuch, bottom of the N1 Midrand, top of the N3 through Limborough Park. Those routes busy into Buccleuch and then all the way down past those 2 obstructions in towards the Fourways exit Rivonia Road around the N1 on-ramps is pretty heavily messed up as well. The N3 South not looking great. There's a crash down at Van Buren Road. Big backlog of traffic from Limborough Park all the way through effectively to Germiston today. Durban, there's a collision on the southern freeway at Umbilo. It's before the M7, so quite a backlog leaving central Durban as you come down through that Congela and Umbilo area. The N3 a little bit sluggish still at Key Ridge on your way to Cliffdale. That traffic never really recovered after some blasting earlier today. And there's all sorts of weather warnings issued for higher grounds of KZN for some very cold weather overnight into tomorrow morning. The N3 toll concession has issued a warning of snow, sleet, black ice conditions as being probability over Van Rienen's Pass, Harry Smith through to Ladysmith. That section of the N3 may be a good idea. I would think absolutely a great idea if you've got any plans to travel early tomorrow morning, just to postpone those to go a little bit later once we know what the conditions are and once hopefully the sun's had a chance to come out and melt away some of the inclement dangers that pose a threat for tomorrow morning. Cape Town, the N2 out of town, still pretty heavily backed up from the city centre through Hospital Bend, and a lot of traffic again on Marine Drive, queuing Pardon Island to Woodbridge Island, then Sunset Beach through to Blow Joburg Road up by the Bayside Junction as you go slowly into Tableview. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
To me.
Yes.
Do you have to talk about cricket?
We have to.
Why?
Listen, we have another ODI coming up tomorrow. We need to know what the Proteas' strategies are going into that one.
Score runs. That would be priority number one. Let's score some runs, boys. All right, what's happening?
Well, talking about the Proteas, Captain Eddie Markram says that they will definitely use their historic defeat to Afghanistan as motivation in their 3-match ODI series. Afghanistan secured their first ever victory over South Africa, coasting to a 6-wicket win with 24 overs to spare. Markram says that the team was intent on giving new faces in the squad the chance to experience international level cricket.
We feel like we're in a good space as a team. I don't think we have to repeat ourselves in saying we're a team that's growing at the moment and exposing guys to the next level, which is fantastic. So that's where we're at the moment. But the feeling I get amongst the team is that everyone's in a really good place and really excited about the series that's ahead for us. Not just this ODI series, but we have one soon against Ireland as well. So a nice little period for us to play one-day cricket, building up to Champions Trophy next year. So ultimately, we had to grow the squad, grow players, but still having said that, we're still here to win games of cricket for South Africa against a tough opposition in their home conditions. So we've got no doubt there's going to be a really big challenge for us, but that being said, that also excites us and once again a fantastic opportunity for us as a full squad.
So the second ODI is tomorrow, and it gets underway from 2 p.m. In football, tickets for the MTN 8 final between Orlando Pirates and Stellenbosch FC taking place on the 5th of October at the Moses Mabhida Stadium are sold out within just 4 hours. Pirates coach Jose Rivero is chasing a total of 26 million rand in 3 years as the Buccaneers have won the last 2 editions, and first prize for this year is 10 million rand on the table. Elsewhere, Manchester City could be expelled from the FA Cup, Champions League, Carabao Cup and the Club World Cup. This is if they are found guilty of serious breaches of its financial rules. City are accused of failing to provide accurate financial details from 2009 for a 9-year period and are currently going up against the Premier League over 115 alleged breaches of the FFP. Now, City have denied all allegations and have recruited a formidable legal team to defend themselves as ruling on the matter is expected early in 2025. Imagine football without Manchester City. Elsewhere, Mikel Arteta insists that Arsenal are on the right path to major honours as they prepare for the start of the Champions League campaign against Atalanta. The Gunners are still searching for a first Champions League success while they wait for the Premier League title stretching back to 2003 or 4 season, and Arteta says that he's looking forward to tonight's clash. In tennis, Coco Gauff has split ways with coach Brad Gilbert after 14 months together. Under Gilbert, Gauff won one Grand Slam title, the 2023 US Open. Gauff failed to defend her title at the Flushing Meadows this year, losing 3-6, 6-4 and 3-6 to Emma Navarro in the 4th round, and Gauff's game was ridden with 19 double faults. We are yet to find out who's Gauff's next coach. In rugby, Springbok prop Thomas du Toit says that the scrum duel between South Africa and Argentina will definitely be a clash of titans and a huge battle until the final whistle. The two teams meet in Saturday's penultimate round of the Castle Lager Rugby Championship, a test that could either see the Boks clinch the title or set up a decider next week in Nelspruit. Still staying with rugby, Jason Jenkins is set to make his debut for the Sharks, while Jorenzo Julius will return from injury against the Lions in the 2024 Currie Cup decider at Ellis Park on Saturday. Head coach John Plumtree has otherwise stuck with an unchanged Sharks 15-23 from the lineup that crossed swords with the Vodacom Bulls in Pretoria last week, making just 2 changes to the starting 15. Then finally in motorsport, Red Bull KTM factory racing rider Jack Miller has signed a 1-year contract to join Pramac Yamaha for the 2025 MotoGP campaign. The Australian thus returns to the team that he raced for with Ducati machinery from 2018 to 2020. That's it. It is a wrap from my side, and I am crossing my fingers for the Proteas for tomorrow, John.
Yeah. I don't know. But I love what you said. Can you imagine Premiership without Manchester City?
No, you're wrong. No. I said imagine football, because it's
football.
not just Premier League.
Okay.
It's literally everywhere.
You see, because I was going to say, I'm old enough to know when Manchester City was just the other Manchester team. Yeah, they were the first division. They made their way in. They got relegated. You see, and then they got some money. But it's this is going to change football. This punishment. And you're right. Okay.
That's if they do get expelled.
All right, let's see what the Proteas can do tomorrow as well. Tumi, thanks very much. We'll chat tomorrow.
Right. With that said,
Are we ready for a real conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
For 18 years, Kumbulekaya has been fostering healing through forgiveness and reconciliation.
Are you asking me that?
Yes.
I grew up without a mom.
So what happened to your family?
What family? You are my family. What happened to you?
Witness as families forgive one another and reunite after a long time. Catch the new season of Kumbulekaya on SABC1 every Wednesday at 9 p.m.
Grass will suffer when Golden Lions collide with Natal Sharks. They both target the gold medal. Gauteng tackles KZN. This is the Currie Cup final. Catch the incredible battle of Mzansi's great rugby teams, Golden Lions versus Natal Sharks, the Saturday 21 September at 3:30 p.m. live on SABC2. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Money Web Market Update coming up soon. Jimmy Muyaha is going to be anchoring that. What's on your list today, Jimmy?
Good evening, John. Good evening to the listeners. We've got quite a bit to dig into today. Since the last time you and I spoke, we've had two rates decisions come out, one from the Fed in the US and one from our own SARB a little while ago. As you started your show, we're going to be reflecting on those rates decisions. We're going to try and unpack what it means for the South African economy, for the world economy. Obviously, markets off the back of yesterday's interest rate decision, absolutely loving what Fed Chair Jerome Powell had to say. So there's a lot more optimism in the markets, and you'll see it in some of the numbers that we'll get into in a bit of a moment. But before we get to that, let's do a quick summary of what's coming up on the show today. We've got conversations with Remgro around their results for the year ended June, their full year's numbers. We've got a conversation with the Chief Financial Officer there. Then we've got a conversation with Adrian Gore around Discovery results, as well as his take on the developments in the NHI space. And then, of course, as I said, we've got that rates conversation we're going to be taking a look at. And because it's Thursday, we do an SME on a Thursday, and I'm joined in studio for this week's SME by a founder who's built a very interesting meal prepping business, and we're going to speak to her, get a bit of an understanding of what her business does, and get to know the business a little bit better. But as I said, markets have been responding to the developments over the last 24 hours and responding positively at that. If we look at some of the movers throughout the day, we start with Asian markets. Sydney was up 0.6%. Hong Kong was up almost a full 2%. At 1.9%. The Shanghai was up 0.2%. The Nikkei in Tokyo up 2.4%. The CAC 40 in France 1.9% in the green. The DAX in Germany 1.7%. The FTSE in London 1.1%. Every European market and Asian market in the green. US markets at the moment are slightly in the red. They still have quite a bit of trading to get through for the day as well, so they're still going to be open for the remainder of the evening. But as it stands, the Nasdaq is down about 0.33%. The S&P is also down about 0.33%. If we have a look at our own local markets, the industrials sector was up 1.6%. Financials was up 0.5%. Resources up 1.82%. At some point, resources were up north of 3%. The all share, as a result, finished the day out 1.2% in the green. The top 40, 1.3% in the green. The rand gained ground against the dollar because of that widening interest interest rate differential because of those decisions. It's currently trading at 17 Rand and 48 cents against the dollar, 23 Rand 20 cents against the British pound, 19 Rand 48 gets you €1, and 11 Rand 91 cents gets you $1 Australian dollar. The Bitcoin price is back in the green as well, as is the Ethereum price. Bitcoin price 63,100 odd dollars. So in rands, that would be roughly 1.1 million rand for a Bitcoin. If we look at the commodities prices before we go, the Brent crude price $74 an ounce, or $74 a barrel rather. The platinum price $993 an ounce. Palladium $1,092. That platinum price has been struggling to get to $1,000 for the longest time. It finally looks like it might get there. The gold price made new highs yesterday, touching 2,600. It's currently 2,584. And we're going to dig into why a little later on when we come back. But for now, John, back to you.
Don't pause too much of the Bitcoin price because it'll change 20% in the time it's taking to say the number.
By the time we're done having this chat.
Jimmy Mayaha, thank you very much. Anyway, market update coming up in about 15 minutes.
If we have rights, shouldn't we also have opinions? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM. SAFM.
We got a voice note that is going to try and explain how long it takes to spend R1 billion. I want to try and describe to you how big R1 billion is, right? So there was 11 billion rand lost in this housing project. Let me try and explain how big R1 billion is. Imagine an A4 piece of paper that you've got. If you're watching me on the TV, that's an A4 piece of paper, right? It's an irregular A4 piece of paper. Now, fill that piece of paper up with asterisks. It's just with characters. Asterisks, like that. It'll take 4,000 asterisks to fill that piece of paper. 4,000 of them. You would need 250 pages to get 1 million asterisks. How much is 250 pages? Well, a ream of paper has less than that. So it's more. It needs more reams. It has 500 sheets. A ream of paper has 500 sheets. So half a ream of paper will get you 1 million asterisks. How many pieces of paper would you need to get to R1 billion? The answer is 1,000 inches. They've given me here. It's whatever. No, sorry. You need a stack of 1,000 inches, 83 feet, to show R1 billion asterisks. How big is 1,000 inches? It's an 8-story building. So you need a piece of paper this thin on top of each other. It would reach an 8-story building. That would be R1 billion asterisks. Now there's 11 of those for 11 billion. So it would be 88, 8 times 11, 88, right? 88-story tall building of pieces of paper stacked on top of each other like that to reach 11 billion asterisks. It's mind-boggling.
Hi, Ashraf. It's Mandan Kimbani.
It's John. Ashraf's way.
I mean, I was listening to you when you mentioned, like how big R1 billion is. And I did some, quick calculation to try and find out that if I had R1 billion in the bank, how long is it going to take me to flood it all to zero if I eat 40,000 every day? So it worked out at around 68 years. So to finish off 1 billion in the bank, it will take me 68 years if I eat 40,000 every day.
Every day.
So it's quite a big number. So I wish people can have a handle on this. The amount of corruption in this country, it's really, depriving the poorest of the poor, because imagine that amount of money. You would have done very, very, very great things. Thank you.
Eunice in Joburg, go ahead. Eunice. I think Eunice is there. Wait, we got to put your button on. All right, go ahead now, Eunice.
Yeah, hi there, John.
Yeah, go ahead.
John, look, my faith in the sections of the South African media are slowly being restored again. I was very pleased this morning when I got up, and the first thing that I read was News 24's editor, Adrian Besson, sending out a message to one of his correspondents, Howard Feldman, saying, listen, you are now being fired.
Yes.
Fired for sending off a series of tweets about the pager explosions in Lebanon yesterday. And according to Adrian, that bordered on promoting violence.
Yes.
Now, we all know what happened yesterday in Lebanon, where those explosions happened. People lost their limbs. I mean, there were deaths there. People lost their eyesight. And it's horrible. And for someone to be glorifying such things, and I say well done to Adrian. And by the way, Howard Feldman is also an anchor on a community station, High FM. You've got to listen to some of the things he says there. And, it was long coming. So I say to Adrian, better late than never. Well done. And just by the way, something else, John. Not long ago, your radio station hosted award-winning journalist Yumna Al-Sayed from Al Jazeera, who was on a tour in this country. And it was sad to say that ENCA's Channel 403 refused to interview her. So, so we still have these remnants of media in this country who claim to be free, open, but yet, here's a journalist who was on the ground in Gaza while the bombings were going on. The genocide, by the way, is going on, and she was giving an eyewitness account of what's happening. Other TV stations had her, but sad to say that ENCA refused to have her on. So I say, tough luck, bad one for that, John.
Eunice, thank you very much. Credit where credit is due, according to Eunice. What do you make of that? Give us a call. Let's go to some voice notes.
Good afternoon, John. John, RAF must make a way for those people who claimed for accidents, the victims, so that they can check how much RAF paid for the claim that was collected by the lawyers. They must find a way of checking direct. If it was me in an accident, I want to see how much RAF paid for my claim and see how much the lawyers and the doctors took from my claim. Lisa from Brixton.
Hi, John. Yeah, well, I just want to weigh in and say big up to the SIU, for a good job well done. But unfortunately, all the thieves, all the people fingered, under Umkhonto are in Parliament. The lawmakers today. Beware, South Africa. Beware. They're in Parliament. Thieves are in Parliament. Jacob Zuma has sent them there. Major from Guatemala.
Good afternoon, John. 11 billion is nothing, my friend. Let the South Africans make a mistake and put Zuma back in this country. What you see about 11 billion is those are the just remnants, destroyers of the regime of Zuma. It's nothing. Let MK come in.
John, the guy who said, why can't they just cut 3 bases at a go? I think deep down inside he knows and understands. Just the same way that even when there was interest raised, there could not be just 1% or 2% at a go. That is why even if they go to 50% basis, like the US have done, it is a milestone, it's unusual. The same way that when they increase, it was step by step. Even decrease, it will be step by step. Maybe South Africa would have qualified for 50% basis, but remember the caution is coming from the 2 ports, because people are going to take money instead of paying the debts. They may use it for consumption, and then inflation go up again. So very cautious about the 2-port system. It came in a bad time. Go ahead.
And just before we go to the ad break, Joseph in Polokwane is saying people celebrate the rates are cut, but a cut doesn't benefit everyone. Pensioners who have money in long-term savings and other money market investments actually get less returns. Yeah, you're exactly right. And Anton, you wanted to know what happened to the animal ambulance story? It's up next.
Unlock a world of benefits. Welcome to SABC's TV License Rewards program. Ready to make your viewing experience more rewarding? Say hello to perks that go beyond just watching TV. Join us today at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za and instantly receive your first reward. But wait, there's more. You can get up to 500 Rand back. Become part of something bigger, a movement where watching TV isn't just a hobby. It's a catalyst for positive change. Register now at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za and open the door to a world of benefits. Plus, every time you tune in, you're making a difference. T's and C's apply. Remember, TV license fees aren't just payments. They make a difference.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said, "Grrr."
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the reed dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, "Baye!"
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
18 teams are back on the hunting ground. No one wants a loss or a draw. They are all searching for maximum points in every encounter. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Do not miss out on the 2024-2025 Bundesliga season. Catch the action live on Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM. SAFM.
I'm talking Animal Hospital in a second. Just a quick rugby update. South African women playing Spain. South Africa lead 12 points to 7 at half-time down in a windy Cape Town. South Africa 12, Spain 7 at half-time. Michael will tell you more about that in sports in an hour or so from now. Let's talk about the animal ambulance. In Gqeberha, it's been launched by Angela de Toya, partner Andre, through their Angel Wings Pet Medic ambulance service. They help pet owners in providing emergency care for pets. Angela de Toy joins us now. Angela, first of all, what was the thinking behind a pet ambulance?
Well, I was thinking, why not?
There we go.
Why not? Humans get it. Why can't animals get it?
So how does it work?
The thing is, when say, for instance, an animal needs to be put down, the person will phone me and say, listen here, we can't take the animal to the vet to be put down because, sometimes they have got dogs can't walk. Sometimes we have got Great Danes that, can't fit in cars and stuff. So, we provide that service and then we help them transport them respectfully towards the vet and then stay with the owners until the procedure is done. And then sometimes we even take them home, the owners, or take the body to be cremated. It's a process. It's a really sad situation. And then, of course, sometimes the animals need help when, say, for instance, they got injured at home. It's in the middle of the night. The owners can't get to a vet. We try and just do a first aid immediately at their premises.
Please tell me you have a little car that goes bee-bar, bee-bar.
Yes, I do.
Excellent. Excellent. I was wondering if you'd be allowed to, but why not?
Well, I don't have, all the the ambulance service has got the red, the police has got blue. And then, of course, disaster management has got the yellow or the orange. I've got a green one, so it's not mistakenly.
Okay, it's the vet colour, right? I mean, You've got buy-in from the vets as well, so people who don't trust vets, maybe?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that don't trust vets. Believe me. I have got how many clients that have actually complained about vets overcharging them, and we understand, vets. They have got their rates. But we try and help them as much as we can. If there's a serious condition, then the animal needs to go to a vet ASAP. We do contact the vets immediately and take the animal, like an ambulance service, to immediately to the vet for the vet to assist.
Right.
Because vets are the experienced ones. I only have first aid second level on animals, but I've been in the industry, say for instance, with animals for over 20 years.
Have there been any strange animals? I mean, pets, cats and dogs I get. So what else you got?
Birds and stuff.
Yeah.
birds, bunny rabbits.
So I imagine people find, I don't know, wild birds that maybe broke a wing or something, or flew into a window.
And a harida, like a harida.
A real harida.
Yeah,
Did you?
harida.
Did they look after the harida?
Yes.
What was wrong with the harida? Can you remember?
It was hit by a car.
Oh no. Okay, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
How long have you been doing this?
Well, actually, just the pet service industry for the ambulance service I've done for a couple of months now. But I've actually got a boarding facility, kennel boarding facility, and a pet travel agency as well attached to it. So yeah, it's it gets a bit hectic now and again, but you know what? It's all to do with animals. They're very special creatures.
Do you charge for it?
Yes, I do. I do charge for the people that can afford it.
Right.
But there is sometimes we need help. There is people that can't afford. I don't overcharge or anything like that. I normally just charge for my petrol or something to go there and things like that. But I'm looking at getting some sponsors or whatever to help. The people that really do need it. I don't even charge for bandages or anything like that.
Sure.
So everything actually literally comes out of my own pocket.
So there might be people who don't have cars, for example, and they need to get the animal to the vet for whatever reason. You can be there and help them.
Yes,
Okay.
we do that. We do that, and of course we travel safely with the animal as well. I can't do any surgeries, of course, because I'm not part of a veterinary council. I'm not a vet. I don't have, I'm not a doctor.
Yeah, you're an animal transporter, is what you are.
Yes, mostly yes.
How does somebody find out more about what you're doing, Angela du Toit?
Okay. I do have a Facebook page called Angel Wings Pet Medic Ambulance Service. And then, anybody that needs help with an animal in Port Elizabeth is welcome to contact me.
Okay. And you do the whole sort of area. How far out do you go?
As far as I can. Any animal needs help. Any animal that needs help, I'm there.
Angela, you're doing good work. Thank you very much. People were looking forward to hearing what you were doing, so hopefully they'll go find you on the Facebooks.
Thank you so much. Thank you for letting me talk about it.
Angela du Toit is winning as the co-owner of Klebega's Animal Ambulance Service. You want to find out more, as you said, go to Facebook. It's Angel Wings Pet Medic Ambulance Service. Angel Wings Pet Medic Ambulance Service. Go find it on Facebook. Find us on Facebook as well at SAFM Radio. And you can follow us live. You can see pictures of us. You can see all our updates. You can see all the podcasts that are updated there as well. Thanks to Katu, Tumi, Taboho, Vusani, and Temba for putting the show together. I'm Jon Gericke, back again tomorrow for the Friday edition. It's 6 o'clock.
Thank you again, John. In this news update, wanted fugitive extradited to SA and an interest rate cut announced. Good evening. Wanted fugitive Michael Lomas is being